Chapter 2597. The old lady had been hypnotized by Yun Jian since just now, so she was in constant shock. Using this opportunity, Yun Jian wanted Zhou Ran and Yun Ni to remarry. None of the Yun family members who had followed the old lady's request and forced Yun Ni and Shentu Wan to marry each other dared to make a sound. Then, everyone, see you at the hotel tomorrow. Yun Jian opened the door and asked them to leave. She was smiling innocently. If they had not seen Yun Jian just now, they would have thought that Yun Jian was just an innocent girl. Definitely. I'll definitely come tomorrow. Huh, for sure. A relative of the Yun family grinned. He sniffed and frowned. Then, he grabbed his wife and left with a fake smile. Congratulations on your marriage, rebel. The other member of the Yun family also imitated this person's actions. He patted Yun Ni's shoulder, pulled out a smile, and fled with his family. Not long after, the dozen or so distant relatives of the Yun family, who had been called over by the old madam, had all disappeared. Yun Ni's younger brother, Yun Zhou, pounced over to pull the old lady and helped her out of Zhou Ran's house quickly. Once the Yun family left, Zhou Ran's house fell into silence. Zhou Qiang, Wan Yuyu, Mu Zixi, Jing Cheng, and the others had witnessed the entire incident from beginning to end. Until now, they were still unable to recover from the shock that Yun Jian, who was about the same age as them, had the ability to intimidate so many people in the Yun family single-handedly. In spite of it, they would be rather thick-skinned if they did not leave at this juncture. Thus, all of them excused themselves and left. Jian, do you have any way to investigate? Yun Ni asked Yun Jian anxiously once everyone was gone. After knowing Yun Jian's identity, almost everyone was afraid of her but Yun Ni, Zhou Ran, and Yun Yin were not. Of course, Yun Jian didn't reveal her identity as an assassin just to scare the old lady. My brother is not dead. Tomorrow, after you go to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register your marriage, I will take you to see him. Yun Jian already knew what Yun Ni wanted to ask, so she spoke first. After that, Yun Jian paused for a moment and her red lips curved slightly. I'll take you to the city where I've been living all these years. Just treat it as a vacation. I believe you'll like it. That night, Yun Ni stayed at Zhou Ran's house. The next day, they followed Yun Jian's arrangement and went to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register their marriage again. They even hurriedly held a small wedding banquet. Even if the old lady did not agree, she did not have the chance to refute. Yun Jian confessed some things to Zhou Ran, Yun Ni, and Yun Mu. For example, Xiao Yunzhu had been killed before, but he had been reborn into this body. His current mother also existed. Another example was her relationship with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian. Other than her identity as Slaying God, the top secret agent on the International Secret Agent ranking list, and her identity as the Witch God of Yulong Mainland, Yun Jian basically didn't hold back anything. Yun Jian dared to say that because Zhou Ran, Yun Ni, and Yun Yin were all low-key and secretive people. As expected, after hearing Yun Jian's words, the two of them didn't say anything and insisted on rushing to the fruit shop to buy fruits for Qin Yiru, Gu Junjian, and Xiao Yunzhu's reborn mother. Moreover, for the sake of Xiao Yunzhu's future, Zhou Ran and Yun Ni would not bring Xiao Yunzhu to Zhuzhou no matter what. No matter how feudal the Yun family was, Yun Ni did not want Xiao Yunzhu to follow in his footsteps. He could not even decide his own marriage. That night, Yun Jian, Zhou Ran, Yun Ni, and Yun Yin came to Longmen City. Just as they passed by her house, Yun Jian saw Ce who was waiting for her at the gate. She pressed her lips together and smiled sweetly. When Ce saw Yun Jian, his handsome face was filled with affection. However, he suddenly saw Yun Yin, who was standing beside Yun Jian, with short black hair and a height of 1.7 meters, putting her hand on Yun Jian's shoulder. In that instant, Ce's gaze on Yun Yin was filled with a murderous intent. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2598. At this moment, Ce looked as if she had swallowed vinegar. Her eyes were filled with murderous intent, as if she wanted to destroy Yunmu with a single glance. Suddenly, she felt as if someone was glaring at her from all directions. Yun Lian placed one hand on Yun Jian's shoulder while her other hand ran through her short black hair. Yunmu gently flicked her short hair. Even the way she flicked her hair made her look like a boy. From afar, the person who was holding onto Yun Jian's shoulder looked like a delicate and beautiful boy. Mama, mama, mama! At this moment, the figure of a little girl who was not even as tall as Yun Jian's calf rushed out of the house. The little girl stumbled as she ran towards Yun Jian. The little girl, who was about 7 months old, had already started learning how to walk. However, after taking 2 steps, she fell forward with a plop. The little girl did not even have the time to stand up. After she fell to the ground, she used her 4 limbs to crawl towards Yun Jian like a little tortoise. Her speed was extremely fast. Mama! Mama giggle strange tiger ee. The little girl crawled in front of Yun Jian. After Yun Jian picked the little girl up from the ground, the little girl used a tiny voice that no one could understand and started babbling. Others might not understand, but as the little girl's mother, how could Yun Jian not understand? The meaning of the words Mama giggle strange tiger ee was not difficult to understand. The little girl wanted to convey the message, Mama big brother bullied me, but the tone of the words was forcefully changed. Ah! This is. Yunmu had never seen such an adorable baby before. She was at a loss as to what to do as she stretched out her hand and gently tapped the little girl's cheeks like a spring. Then, she quickly retracted her hand, afraid that she would hurt the little girl. Hee, okay. The little girl called out to Yunmu in a muffled voice. Of course, Yunmu did not understand what she was saying. However, Yunmu still happily asked Yun Jian a question. Is she calling out to me? Is she calling out to me? She's so adorable. How could there be such a cute child? I want to snatch her away and make her my daughter. Yunmu's voice was a little rough to begin with, and her face was as delicate as a boy's. It was really difficult for outsiders to tell whether Yunmu was a man or a woman. Ce's face gradually darkened. Jian, is this where you live? Take us to see your parents. At this moment, Yun and I, who was carrying all kinds of fruit baskets, shouted with an excited expression. He looked like he was here to propose marriage to Yun Jian on behalf of his son. Needless to say, Ce's expression darkened. The worst thing was that the little girl even laughed and hugged into Yunmu's arms. When Yunying took the little girl from Yun Jian's arms, her hand actually brushed against Yun Jian's chest. His chest. This time, Ce's chiseled face was filled with displeasure as he walked over. He was going to throw this man who dared to touch his Xiao Jian's chest out here and hack him to death. This was what Ce planned to do next. Ce had always been a person who did whatever he wanted. With a dark expression, he walked over and reached Yun Jian in a few steps. Just as Ce was about to act on his thoughts, what Yunmu said to Yun Jian while carrying the little girl carefully entered Ce's ears, making Ce's heart skip a beat. Chapter 2599. Ce's next move was halted by Yunmu's greeting of sister and godmother. Yunmu hugged the girl and tried to cheer her up with all sorts of weird expressions. He. The girl giggled as well. Sister. That's great. You've given birth to such a beautiful daughter. My heart is about to melt. Yunmu's face was filled with excitement. Her motherly love was about to burst out. It's a boy and a girl, Yun Jian added when she heard Yunmu mistakenly thinking that she had only given birth to a girl. Oh. A boy and a girl. That's great. It's best to give birth to a boy and a girl. Treat the daughter like a treasure and play with the son. How great is that? Yunmu said seriously. What are you talking about? Both the daughter and the son are doted on. Zhou Ran chimed in with a grin. Yunmu still did not know that she had narrowly escaped death. She hugged the girl, unwilling to let go of her overflowing motherly love. Zhou Ran and Yun and I met with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian and started chatting happily. Both families were like a family, getting along very well. In the end, if it were not for the fact that their homes were in Suzhou and they had lived there all their lives, Zhou Ran and Yun and I would have moved to Longmen City. Yunmu liked the girl so much that she carried her around and eventually stayed in the living room to teach the clever girl how to play rock-paper-scissors. Yun Jian went out with Ce then. Qin Yiru and Zhou Ran chatted happily. Both of them were Yun Jian's mothers and both of them brusquely sent Yun Jian to the market to buy groceries. When Yun Jian went to the market to buy groceries, Ce had to tag along. She also went to Lan Su's house to pick up the little girl. The little guy insisted on staying at Lan Su's house this morning, so Ce didn't force him. At this moment, they arrived at Lan Su's house. Just as she entered Lan Su's house, Yun Jian saw Leng Mei, Gu Nianji, and Qing Yu freeloading at Lan Su's house. When they saw Yun Jian, all three of them stood up and greeted Yun Jian, Sister Jian. Yun Jian responded softly. Where did that guy go? Ce asked. That guy, of course, was the little guy Si Dan. Judging from Ce's tone, she was most likely going to carry the poor little fellow with one hand again. Cough. Over there. Leng Mei pointed at Zhou Yiran's room in Lan Su's house. Yun Jian put down the vegetables she bought from the market and walked towards the small room. The two of them are playing games. Why don't we go in later? It's not easy for them to reconcile and stop fighting, Gu Nianji suggested with a chuckle. Yun Jian held Ce back and did not go forward. Have a bowl of mung bean soup I made. Lan Su came out of the kitchen with 2 bowls of mung bean soup and passed them to Yun Jian and Ce. Heh, I realize that Sister Lan Su is becoming more and more like a housewife now. Leng Mei hugged the pillow on the sofa and rolled around to lie on Gu Nianji. That's right. Gu Nianji giggled in agreement. Mine. At this moment, Zhou Yiran's loud voice suddenly rang out from Zhou Yiran's small room. Oh. The little guy's babbling voice could be heard right away. Mine, mine, mine. Zhou Yiran seemed to be arguing with the little guy as his loud voice echoed in the room. Oh. The little guy was not to be outdone. Afraid that the two of them would fight again, Yun Jian, Ce, Lan Su, and Leng Mei hurried to the small room. When she opened the door to Zhou Yiran's small room, she saw Zhou Yiran grabbing the little boy's collar. The little boy imitated Zhou Yiran and grabbed the corner of Zhou Yiran's clothes. The two of them pulled each other and rolled around on the bed. Then, Zhou Yiran's lips were intimately pressed against the little guy's. Bookmark for easier reading. Chapter 2600. Page 1/1. A loud smacking sound suddenly rang out from the moment the little fellow and Zhou Yiran's lips touched. Just like that, the two of them kissed in front of everyone. They kissed. Oh my God. Leng Mei slipped and almost fell onto Gu Nianji. She covered her eyes awkwardly and turned around. She forced a smile that even she was shocked by. I didn't see anything. I didn't see anything. Leng Mei said as she grabbed Gu Nianji and ran out of the door. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was being straddled by the little guy. He blinked his large eyes and reacted in an instant. He frowned and reached out to push the little guy away. After that, Zhou Yiran stood up and vomited beside the bed. He even complained in front of Ce, it's disgusting. It's not as fragrant as my wife's lips. The little guy was pushed onto the bed by Zhou Yiran. Like a lively little turtle, he looked at the ceiling without speaking or moving. He looked like a little wife who was being bullied. Yun Jian quickly walked over and picked up the little guy with a smile. Ce walked towards Zhou Yiran with a dark expression. I just bought a lively fish at the market. It'll definitely be delicious when cooked. Ah. We're in for a treat tonight. At that moment, Adam walked into the room with a big fish in his hand. As soon as he walked into the room, he saw Ci's handsome face. His words slowly stopped. Before Adam could figure out what was going on, he heard the calamity that was his doom coming from Ci's lips. Adam, take your son with you. You must get on the bus to the Amazon in 10 minutes. If you're late for even a second, the organization's newly developed tracking missile will blast you to wherever you go. CE had given the order to kill them this time. Adam shouted, F***CK. He accurately threw the big fish in his hand into the sink and rushed into Xiaofan's small room. He complained, "What did you do, you brat?" He picked up Xiaofan and rushed out of the door. Not long after, he disappeared. Before leaving, Adam even left Lan Su a sentence, "Darling, wait for me to come back." It must have been hard for Adam to work under Ce. Leng Mei, Gu Nianji, and Qing Yu's lips twitched. Yeah. The little fellow didn't have the slightest intention of kissing Xiaofan. When he saw Xiaofan being carried away by Adam, his hands and feet lightly touched each other, as if he was learning how to applaud an adult. Yun Jian rubbed the little fellow's head lovingly, not letting the little fellow out of her arms. Ce walked over and grabbed the back of the little boy's collar from Yun Jian's arms. After Yun Jian said goodbye to Lan Su and the others, she also left. She stayed at home for 2 days. As Yun Han was about to take the college entrance examination, she had to return to school to study. Zhou Ran and Yun Ni also had to return to Zhuzhou with Yun Han. When Yun Han returned home, Zhou Ran had to cook for her. However, when the three of them returned, Yun Jian asked them to move to the villa she bought for them. She only left after making sure that old mistress and her group would not harass them again. Yun Jian returned to the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China to continue her studies. Ce, on the other hand, returned to an Han group. The new year was over. As Yun Jian was only taking a year off, she had no choice but to return to school. Previously, it was mentioned that they would find the third artifact left behind by the creator of Deity Continent on Shrouded Dragon Mountain. Yun Jian had to understand Shrouded Dragon Mountain well before she set off. As soon as Yun Jian returned to school, Mo Bufan, Zhou Huntao, and Zhou Dun from the Martial Arts Society organized the members of the society to welcome Yun Jian back. The one who insisted on treating Yun Jian to a meal when she returned to school was the filthy rich Brother Kai. Brother Kai was Mo Bufan's buddy. He usually gave girls diamond rings as jewelry and was very rich. Brother Kai treated Yun Jian differently from ordinary girls. He sincerely treated Yun Jian as a friend. Brother Kai called a large group of people and went to a nearby bar to welcome Yun Jian back. "Here, this is Yun Jian, the president of our school's martial arts society. She took a year off and came back today." In a large private room, Brother Kai introduced Yun Jian to some juniors who had just entered school not long ago. Translator, Tim Editor, Globeglotter. Chapter 2601. While Yun Jian was away, many new students entered the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Yun Jian was no longer a first-year student. She was now in the second semester of her sophomore year. Yun Jian had been in university for almost 2 years. Of course, that was if the 1-year break in between didn't count. Brother Kai had a wide social circle in the university. Some of the new students were very playful. They could easily get to know and hook up with anyone. The people they hooked up with liked to brag in front of them and introduce them to the so-called awesome people. As a matter of fact, they quickly used their connections to get to know Brother Kai. There were at least a dozen university students present. They were freshmen who had just entered the university. And all of them were dressed gorgeously. A few of the girls with better figures were wearing shorts that revealed their buttocks. Their upper bodies were wearing tights that revealed their cleavage, slim waists, and belly buttons. The boys were wearing designer clothes and branded sports shoes. A few of the boys were wearing imitation sports shoes. In their youth, in order to show off, most boys who didn't come from rich families would buy high-end imitation shoes to wear. Only Yun Jian was wearing casual clothes. Her clothes weren't bad, but they were too ordinary for girls who liked to look good. "Brother Kai, this is the president of the martial arts club. She's so beautiful." A first-year female student who was proud to know Brother Kai walked towards Yun Jian. She was wearing shorts that revealed her buttocks. To her, Yun Jian was Brother Kai's favorite. So, this first-year female student came to Yun Jian, handed Yun Jian a cigarette, and asked, "Do you smoke?" "No." Yun Jian refused decisively. The girl put the cigarette into her mouth and skillfully lit it with a lighter. "Hey, Jiejia, I heard that you broke up with your boyfriend. Is that true?" At this time, a girl sitting not far away raised her red fingernails and asked the girl who handed Yun Jian the cigarette. "We broke up." The girl took the cigarette out of her mouth. She blew the smoke gently and said indifferently. Song Shijia was the girl's name. Soon, the crowd's attention shifted from Yun Jian to other places. The bar was very messy, and there were people dancing everywhere. Fortunately, this was a private room. Whether it was outside the bar or inside the private room, the lights were always dim, giving people a depressing feeling. Bars were usually open until very late. This bar usually closed at 2:30 p.m. Brother Kai and the others played until 1:30 in the morning and still didn't want to leave. "I heard that there will be a big shot here tonight, so everyone can stay out a little later." Brother Kai told everyone what he knew. Everyone was amused when they heard that. When it was 2 in the morning, most of the people outside the bar had already left in 2s and 3s, but the people in the private rooms were still very awake. "Dear customers, these drinks are free of charge in our store. Please have a taste." At around 2:00 in the morning, several people dressed as waiters walked into the private room. They placed some drinks on the table and left the room. "Hey, this bar is not bad. They know that our expenses are high, so they give us free drinks." Zhou Huntao from the martial arts club complained. After the waiters walked out of the private room, he poured a glass of orange juice and was about to drink it. However, before Zhou Huntao could drink the orange juice, everyone suddenly heard an inconspicuous voice that was as pleasant as the sound of nature. Suddenly, they heard a voice that was not eye-catching, but was as pleasant as the sound of nature. "Can't drink, the drink is mixed with drugs." Chapter 2602. The bar usually closed at 2:30 in the morning, and it was already 2:30 in the morning. The group came late and didn't have enough time to play, so they played until very late. The bar was the most crowded in the morning, but after 2:00 in the morning, when the night was quiet and there were only a few people in the bar, anything could happen. Always remember that 90% of the things in this world only happen when you look for them. Free things are poison, so never touch them. Yun Jian's eyes flashed sharply. She finished speaking and stood up. Zhou Huntao had already put the teacup to his mouth, but when he heard Yun Jian's words, he quickly moved his mouth away and spat out some orange juice on the ground. F***ck, this. Zhou Huntao didn't have time to consider whether Yun Jian was telling the truth or not before he shouted in shock. "Knockout drug." Song Shijia, who had just handed Yun Jian a cigarette, was shocked. Everyone around them was so scared that their faces turned pale. Yun Jian walked up and opened the bottles of free alcohol and drinks one by one. She put them at the tip of her nose and sniffed. These free alcohol and drinks are all mixed with knockout drugs. The concentration isn't high, but if you drink it all, it's enough to knock everyone out, Yun Jian said after sniffing all the alcohol and drinks. You know about this too?" Song Shijia asked in fear. Yun Jian didn't reply to Song Shijia. She walked to the door of the private room, put her ear to the door in front of everyone, and closed her eyes for 3 seconds. What is she doing? Song Shurja suddenly let out a sigh of relief and asked the person standing next to her. Most of the people in the room were also puzzled. The door of the bar was just closed, and there's no one in the bar lobby. This bar should have closed at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yun Jian opened her eyes and turned to look at everyone. What? It closed at 2 o'clock in the morning? Then? Everyone was shocked when they heard this. It closed at 2 o'clock in the morning, but everyone in the private room didn't realize this at all. Moreover, the room was soundproof, so they couldn't hear anything outside. You mean? Is this hotel a scam? They're already prepared to knock us out. Brother Kai's face turned pale for a moment. He immediately reacted and asked. Then what is their purpose? Song Shurja was also scared. Everyone in the room was a student, so it was obvious what the purpose of this bar was. Yun Jian glanced at Song Shurja. I don't know. She walked towards where Brother Kai and Mo Bufan were. Yun Jian, can you think of a way? Mo Bufan looked at Yun Jian and asked with a frown. Did something like this happen because they had played too late? But now that it had happened, how was he going to resolve it? I can't help it, Yun Jian suddenly said as she walked past Brother Kai and walked towards the sofa. When everyone heard this, their hearts trembled. But the moment Yun Jian said, I can't help it, she suddenly flashed behind Brother Kai and kicked an inconspicuous boy's face in front of everyone. After the boy fell to the ground, she grabbed the boy's jacket and tied him up. At the same time, she stuffed the boy's mouth with tissue paper. Wenling. Wenling. Why did you tie Wenling up? Are you crazy? Song Shurja suddenly saw this and shouted at Yun Jian in shock. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was scared out of her wits, Yun Jian coldly smiled and looked at the boy named Wenling who was being suppressed in front of everyone. What's your purpose in teaming up with the people in the bar to knock us out? Chapter 2603. Wenling and Song Shurja knew each other, and they were all freshmen. Not long after they entered the school, they started fooling around with everyone. Usually, he looked like an outstanding and helpful boy. What do you mean by that? Song Shurja looked at Yun Jian and asked in shock. Yun Jian did not explain to Song Shurja. She turned around and kicked a stool in the private room while everyone's expressions changed in shock. The stool with 4 unconnected legs bounced up and down for a while in front of everyone. It bounced 3 meters away and landed firmly on Wenling's head, whose back was facing the ceiling. Wenling's mouth was stuffed with toilet paper and he could not speak. Song Shurja and her group of freshmen, as well as everyone present, were shocked when they saw Yun Jian kick the stool and it landed on Wenling's head without any deviation. If the stool with 4 unconnected legs had been slightly off, it would have landed on Wenling's head. If it had landed from such a distance, Wenling's head would probably have been smashed until it bled. Yun Jian, why did you accuse him? Mo Bufan frowned and asked Yun Jian. He went to the toilet 3 times midway, Yun Jian replied. You even remembered that? A freshman asked Yun Jian in surprise. In the end, the freshman added, but even so, you can't accuse Wenling of teaming up with the people in the bar to drug us. What's your motive for saying that? Yun Jian also ignored the boy. She turned to look at Brother Kai and asked, was it your idea to come to this bar? After Brother Kai heard this, he replied, no, Wenling introduced her to me. Played until 2 in the morning? This seems to be Wenling's suggestion too. Since everyone is having so much fun, they should go back later. Brother Kai did not notice this before and thought for a while before replying. Everyone's eyes widened when they heard this. But all of them looked at Yun Jian in shock. How did she know that Wenling betrayed everyone? Her observation skills were too amazing. I didn't expect that I would be discovered. At this moment, the door to the private room was opened, and a middle-aged man with a broken arm walked in under the protection of a group of people. Woo woo. When Wenling saw the middle-aged man, he cried out twice. What a piece of trash. You can't even fool a group of students your age. Do you still want money for your mother's treatment? The middle-aged man with a broken arm glared at Wenling and chuckled. Brother Dahao, the injection is ready. At this moment, one of the men standing behind the middle-aged man said. This middle-aged man called Brother Dahao was a big shot in the bar. Moreover, Brother Dahao was an expert in the world of drug trafficking. He had his eyes on the students in the university town of Jiang City since a long time ago. This time, he planned to make a fortune from Wenling, inject them with drugs. I don't believe it. Brother Dahao instructed his subordinates with an authoritative look. However, just as Brother Dahao finished speaking, a group of armed men dressed in black suddenly rushed in from outside the door. This group of people appeared here without any warning, as if they were envoys of the night. When Song Shijia and the others saw this, their eyelids twitched. When they saw the leader of this group of armed men dressed in black, Brother Dahao's expression changed drastically. He immediately lowered his head and exclaimed in front of everyone, "You! Why are you here?" Brother Dahao was also someone who had been to the international scene and had seen the world. When he saw the person who came in, he was so shocked that his expression changed abruptly. When everyone was wondering who this person that even Brother Dahao was afraid of was, Brother Dahao had already said respectfully to the leader of the armed men, "I've already transferred the last batch of firearms to your hands. Why are you still looking for me?" Before Brother Dahao could finish speaking to the leader of the armed troops, a voice suddenly rang out. The leader of the armed men suddenly walked in front of Yunjian. In less than 2 seconds, he directly knelt on the ground in front of Yunjian in front of everyone present. At the same moment when everyone was so shocked that their eyeballs almost popped out, he kowtowed to Yunjian and begged for mercy. "Miss Yun. I didn't have foresight in the past and offended you. Please be merciful. Let go of my cold pavilion." Chapter 2604. The person who came was not an outsider. He was Si Yi's biological father on Earth, Si Chu. Ding! Ding! At the same time, he was the head of the Cold Pavilion, an arms family. Ever since Si Chu failed to force Si Yi to marry him a few years ago, Si Yi had severed all ties with Si Chu. The Cold Pavilion was an internationally renowned arms family. Yun Jian had been eyeing it for a long time. A few months ago, she got the chance to take over the Cold Pavilion. Before Yun Jian made her move, she even asked Si Yi if she had feelings for the Cold Pavilion. Si Yi's reply was, "If you like it, it's yours." A few days ago, the Cold Pavilion was completely destroyed by Yun Jian, and its arms family fell into Yun Jian's hands. However, they did not expect Si Chu to come here and beg for mercy. What's going on? What's going on? Brother Dahao was horrified. When the people present saw this scene, they all turned to stare at Yun Jian. Brother Dahao was such a powerful person, yet he actually knelt down and begged for mercy in front of Yun Jian? "Senior, this is..." Song Shijia looked at Yun Jian in a daze and was about to speak. "I don't know him." Yun Jian interrupted Song Shijia and glanced at Si Chu. Then, she turned to Si Chu and added, "I'm just an ordinary female student at the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. You must have mistaken me for someone else." It turned out that he had mistaken her for someone else. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. "Yun Jian, I thought you were in the underworld. You actually colluded with an arms family." Zhou Huntao heaved a sigh of relief. When everyone heard Yun Jian's words, they felt relieved. Yun Jian glanced at Si Chu. Seeing that Si Chu was stunned, she did not say anything and walked out of the room. Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, Song Shijia, and the others saw that Yun Jian actually left the private room in front of Brother Deheo and the others. They were afraid that Brother Deheo wouldn't let them go, so they quickly chased after Yun Jian. Brother Deheo was afraid of Si Chu, so he didn't dare to send people to chase after them. He just watched as Yun Jian and her group disappeared before his eyes. After Yun Jian and the others left, Brother Deheo swallowed hard. He looked at Si Chu and said in a slightly flattering tone, "She's gone. Do you want me to send someone to bring her back for you to confirm?" To Brother Deheo, Si Chu was someone he could not afford to offend. However, Si Chu was still kneeling in front of Yun Jian with a piece of paper in his hand. Other than Si Chu, no one saw that the piece of paper was thrown to him by Yun Jian. This is. Brother Deheo originally thought that Si Chu had found the wrong person. When he saw the piece of paper in Si Chu's hand, he suddenly remembered that Si Chu didn't stop Yun Jian from leaving just now. If that was the case, then that teenage girl was someone that even a big shot like Si Chu would be so scared that he would kneel down when he saw her. Brother Deheo panicked. Fortunately, he didn't do anything to that group of people. After leaving the bar, Mo Bufan, Brother Kai, and the others ran to the school dormitory building at lightning speed. On the way, they didn't dare to stay for a moment, afraid that the group of people would find them again. Phew. I was scared to death just now. Fortunately, Yun Jian was there. Otherwise, we wouldn't even dare to imagine what happened just now. Zhou Huntao took the lead and led everyone to the school dormitory building. He took a few deep breaths and spoke. "That's right. We should thank Yun Jian properly." "Yun Jian? Where did Yun Jian go?" Zhou Dun responded. He wanted to find Yun Jian to thank her, but after looking around, he couldn't find her. She said she went back to the dormitory first. A girl explained with relief. In the bar. Brother Deheo lowered his head and led Si Chu and the others to the bar entrance. Then, he saw a petite figure standing at the bar entrance. This petite figure suddenly appeared at the entrance. It was so strange that Brother Deheo and the others panicked. The next moment, the owner of the figure turned her head sideways and changed her posture of a female student. They saw Yun Jian's red arc curl. She looked at Si Chu and sneered in a completely different tone in front of everyone. Chapter 2605. She wanted to kill Si Chu. Brother Deheo's plump body trembled violently. He took 2 steps back, but his eyes were fixed on Yun Jian. Were these words really supposed to come from the mouth of a young girl who was less than 20 years old? Who was this young girl? You still have 30 seconds. My knife doesn't have extra time for you to think. Brother Deheo had just recovered from the shock when Yun Jian's cold voice sounded again. If Si Chu didn't come, Yun Jian wouldn't deliberately find him and kill him. But Si Chu came to find him, so he should blame himself. At this time, even Brother Deheo, who had nothing to do with this matter, felt his heart tremble violently. You still have 10 seconds. I forgot to tell you that my knife tells me that it wants to suck more people's blood. It will use all of your blood to feed my knife. Yun Jian stood in a dark place with a shiny butterfly knife in her hand. She was expressionless when she said this, but her words were frightening. That strange figure made everyone feel like they were in a suspense movie. Brother Deheo's face started to turn pale. Brother Deheo originally thought that this matter wouldn't affect him. Who would have thought that Yun Jian actually said that she wanted everyone to die with Si Chu? I suddenly remembered that I have an urgent matter at home. Brother Deheo turned around and wanted to leave. But just as he turned around, a blade brushed past his ear and pierced a bottle of wine on the bar counter. Bang bang! The bottle of wine fell to the ground, making a sound that would make people shiver. Brother Deheo quickly walked back to his original place. I don't have to go home after that. Before he could finish his sentence, go home. 32. Yun Jian had already started the countdown with her beautiful voice that sounded like the call of death. Brother Deheo and the group of people standing next to him almost stopped breathing. How could they have provoked such a terrifying demoness? Fight! Fight! At most, they would all die here. However, just as Brother Deheo and the others were so frightened that their faces turned green, thinking that Si Chu would definitely not be able to give a reason this time, the countdown started in the last second. Do you want to know the secrets of the sandalwood box and the wooden fan among the 3 divine artifacts left behind by the creator of the gods' continent, Xiaofan? At the last second, Si Chu spoke. At this moment, he spoke in a solemn tone. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes. After pausing for 2 seconds, Yun Jian sheathed her knife. Speak. Yun Jian went straight to the point. Give me back the cold pavilion. Otherwise, you will never know the message left behind by the creator of the gods' continent, Xiaofan. Si Chu said loudly. Sure. Yun Jian narrowed her eyes and agreed. Hearing this, Si Chu heaved a sigh of relief. What? What's the deity's continent? Brother Deheo and the others were confused. At this moment, Si Chu was no longer as weak as before. He turned around and waved to Yun Jian. Come with me. They returned to the private room. Si Chu was not trying to stall for time. He handed a letter to Yun Jian and said, This was given to me by an expert when Ce was born. That expert told me that the cold pavilion would be taken away by a teenage girl in the future. If that day comes, I should give this letter to her. I didn't believe it at first, but now, Si Chu opened his mouth and finally said something. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes moved. She immediately took the envelope and opened it to take out the letter. However, when she saw the black words on the white paper inside the envelope, Yun Jian's eyes widened. The letter said, if you want to talk about campus rebirth, the strongest female secret agent with more like-minded people, follow advanced study literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find confidence. Chapter 2606. The appearance of the letter was very ordinary. There was nothing special about it. However, the words on the white paper made Yun Jian's eyes widen. This was because this letter did not come from Earth, nor did it come from the Yulong continent, nor did it come from the deity continent. It came from another world. It was a handwritten letter left behind by the creator of deity mainland, Xiaofan. After reading the contents of the letter, Yun Jian looked up at Si Chu and asked, Who was the person who gave you this letter? I don't know. I only know that the person was wearing a ghost mask and was dressed very ordinarily. I don't know anything else, Si Chu replied. The words, ghost mask, were deeply imprinted in Yun Jian's heart. She had heard Yiji mention before that Yuan Xing, who sent her the letter, wore a ghost mask all year round. If that was the case, could the person named Yuan Xing be related to the creator of deity mainland, Xiaofan? Perhaps he would know more about Xiaofan. Holding the letter in her hand, Yun Jian turned around. She took 2 steps forward and turned back to look at Si Chu. She asked, Have you read this letter? No. I don't know why, but I can't open this letter, Si Chu replied immediately. Yun Jian did not say anything. She turned around and left. After Yuan Xing took Yiji away last time, she was sent back to Qin Yiru's house. However, in order to overcome her fear of this world, Yiji went to school again. She was still a boarding student. Therefore, Yun Jian had not seen Yiji during this period. She suddenly went to Yiji's school to look for her. When Yun Jian arrived at Yiji's class, all her classmates looked at Yun Jian in surprise. Yiji, someone is looking for you. It was a self-study class. A student who was sitting on the podium and acting as a teacher looked after the student spoke to Yiji. Hearing this, Yiji stood up, trembling, and walked out. Come with me. Yun Jian glanced at Yi Ji and grabbed her hand to go outside. Oh! Yi Ji's classmates saw Yun Jian grabbing Yi Ji's hand. They looked as if they knew a secret. However, Yun Jian ignored them. Yi Ji lowered her head in fear. Yun Jian brought her to the most secluded place in the school where no one could see her. Do you know where the person who sent me the letter is? Yun Jian asked. Yi Ji was stunned and then shook her head. He hasn't appeared in front of me in a long time. To Yuan Xing, she was probably just a passerby in his life, an irrelevant person. Therefore, it was impossible for Yuan Xing to revolve around her. Because even when she was bullied in the past, Yuan Xing only stood by the side and did not do anything. She was not important to him at all. Yun Jian's eyes narrowed. Close your eyes, Yun Jian suddenly told Yi Ji. Huh? Yi Ji was stunned, but she still closed her eyes. She believed everything Yun Jian said. As soon as Yi Ji closed her eyes, Yun Jian raised her hand and slapped Yi Ji's face. If this slap landed on Yi Ji's face, Yi Ji would definitely fall to the ground. Yun Jian did not hold back. However, just as Yi Ji felt a gust of wind on her face, her hand was suddenly pulled. In the next second, Yun Jian saw a tall man wearing a ghost mask appear. He pulled Yi Ji to his chest from behind. Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 2607. Yi Ji was suddenly pulled behind him. When she realized what was happening, she had already slammed into the man's chest. Suddenly, she felt a hard, wall-like body behind her. Yi Ji was stunned. She instinctively opened her eyes. She looked up and saw the side profile of a man wearing a ghost mask. Yuan Xing? Why are you here? Yi Ji looked at the man in the ghost mask. Her red lips moved slightly and she frowned in surprise. After all, ever since Yuan Xing took her away and sent her back to Qin Yiru's house and she entered the school, Yuan Xing had not appeared for a long time. Why did he appear today? He's been following you. Yun Jian looked at Yuan Xing, who was wearing a ghost mask. Her lips curved into a red arc as she chuckled. Finally, Yun Jian paused. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Yuan Xing. She said in a firm tone, "You're Xing Feng's man." Yuan Xing was a follower of deity's continent's creator, Xing Feng. Yi Ji did not understand anything. She blinked her eyes and crawled out from Yuan Xing's chest. At this moment, Yuan Xing patted Yi Ji's head. Under the mask, his face was expressionless, and his lips moved slightly. Go to class. Yuan Xing said to Yi Ji. Oh. Yi Ji did not get a reply from Yuan Xing. She scratched the part of her head that was touched by Yuan Xing and walked to the classroom in confusion. You like her? As soon as Yi Ji left, Yun Jian looked at Yuan Xing with a beautiful and flirtatious smile. Yuan Xing's eyes followed Yi Ji until she disappeared in front of him. His lips under the mask twitched slightly. He looked away and replied to Yun Jian, I don't hate her. That was liking her. Yun Jian did not say much, merely smiling with her lips pressed together. Back to the topic at hand, Yun Jian's smirk faded abruptly. She turned around and walked to a thick tree, taking 2 steps forward before stopping. Yun Jian, who was holding the letter from Si Chu, turned sideways and looked at Yuan Xing. She could not help retorting. If my guess is correct, as the creator of the God's continent, Xing Feng has the ability to foresee the future. Yun Jian's words made Yuan Xing's feet move. His eyes darkened. There was silence all around. Silence. It was so quiet that even the sound of breathing could be heard. It was so long that the school bell was about to ring. Yes. A nod suddenly sounded from Yuan Lin's mouth. When Ce was born on Earth, Yuan Shen gave this letter to Si Chu. He told Si Chu that there would be a day when the cold pavilion would be taken away by a young girl. He also told Si Chu to give this letter to Yun Jian on that day. This meant that either Yuan Xing or Xing Feng had the ability to foresee the future. There was no doubt that the person who had this ability was Xing Feng. So now, it's time to tell me what you know. Yun Jian said as she waved the letter between her index and middle fingers. Yuan Xing took 2 steps to the side after being seen through. He turned around and looked at Yi Ji in the teaching building. Since you already know, I won't hide it from you. Yuan Xing paused and suddenly grinned. Just as Yun Jian stared at him, Yuan Xing reached out and took off his ghost mask from behind. His slender fingers gently removed his mask. The face under the mask was extremely handsome. There was a hint of delicacy in his handsomeness. This was not what Yun Jian noticed. Yun Jian's focus was on, this face was very similar to Shui Ying's. You are? Yun Jian frowned. Yuan Xing raised his eyes and looked at Yun Jian. When Yun Jian frowned, he immediately said, "Let me reintroduce myself. My name is Yuan Xing. My father is Shui Ying. My mother is Si Luo. As for Xing Feng, he is the child of you and your husband, Si Chu. We are from the future world. M. Chapter 2608. We came from the future world. The words made Yun Jian's expression change in surprise. Yes, she had guessed Yuan Xing's identity and Xing Feng's identity. She was even more certain that Xing Feng had the ability to predict the future. But she never expected, Yuan Xing was Shui Ying and Si Luo's child. And Xing Feng was. Yun Jian squeezed the envelope in her hand, her face turning pale. The wind blew past Yun Jian. The warm spring wind blew past Yun Jian's ponytail that reached her waist. Her messy hair fluttered in the wind, looking beautiful. But if one looked closer, one could see that Yun Jian had written 2 words on the white envelope in her hand with a black pen, "Save me." The words, Xing Feng, were inscribed on the letter. It was obvious that Xing Feng had been captured by the mysterious person. I still have something I don't understand. Yun Jian squeezed the envelope in her hand and looked up at Yuan Xing. Please tell me. Yuan Xing said. Yuan Xing was still very polite to Yun Jian. Because to Yuan Xing, Xing Feng was his master. Just like how Shui Ying worked for Ce. In a sense, as Xing Feng's mother, Yun Jian was half his master. Will we encounter any mishaps in the future? Yun Jian asked. When she asked this question, she did not hesitate at all. Yuan Xing lowered his head and looked at the leaves on the ground. 2 seconds later, Yuan Xing suddenly looked up and told Yun Jian the truth without hesitation, yes. In the future, you, your husband, my parents, Uncle Lin Wei, Auntie Yi Ling, and everyone else. They're all dead. They were plotted against by the mysterious person and forced to perish together with him. In the end, only Xing Feng and I were left. So in order to change this situation, Si Luan, who was Ce and Yun Jian's child, changed his name to Xing Feng and used all his spiritual power to distort time and space to come to the gods' continent that didn't exist at that time. According to the normal course of history, the deities' continent would also appear. The king of the deities' continent would also exist. The Lord God, the Master God, and the Master God's father would all exist. However, Xing Feng had come to the gods' continent, where everything had yet to begin. He had become the creator of the gods' continent, adding a stroke to the long river of history. He, Xing Feng, was the creator of the gods' continent. Previously, it was said that Xing Feng had accidentally discovered the deities' continent and created it out of selfishness. This was half true and half false. Xing Feng had indeed come to the gods' continent for his own selfish reasons. However, in order to hide his identity, he had no choice but to mold himself into someone else. The only thing that mattered was that Xing Feng had come from a world other than Earth and the divine continent. This only meant that he had come from the future world. His goal was simple. He wanted to change everything. He had traversed time and space, overcome all obstacles, and arrived here, all for the sake of finding the person he loved. And the 3 divine artifacts left behind by Xiaofan were the key to defeating the mysterious person. Yuan Jin told Yun Jian that when he and Xiaofan had just arrived at the God's continent and created the God's continent, they had met the mysterious person not long after. At that time, the mysterious person had the speed potion, which could increase the strength of his subordinates by several times. At that time, Xiaofan could not defeat the mysterious person, so he took his beloved woman and went into seclusion. Before Xiaofan went into seclusion, he adopted an adopted son from the God's continent and made him the ruler of the God's continent. This adopted son was undoubtedly Siyi's ancestor. Xiaofan had gone into seclusion, secretly looking for a way to deal with the mysterious person. However, the mysterious person had found his residence and caught Xiaofan and his subordinates in one fell swoop. Only Yuan Jin, who had come to Earth with this secret, was entrusted by Xiaofan. There was no need to explain what had happened after that. Hearing this, Yun Jian's eyes were cold. Her eyes were filled with killing intent, revealing an unprecedented coldness. She was still expressionless, but the words that came out of her mouth were so cold that they could freeze the world. So, what you mean is that the mysterious man took my child away? Chapter 2609. Although he did not want to say it out loud, Yuan Xian clenched his fists and nodded. Yes. Xiaofan had fallen into the hands of the mysterious man. As Yun Jian and Siyi's child, Xiaofan, or Ce, could have lived a peaceful life with Yuan Xian in the future world. This was because Yun Jian and the rest had sacrificed their lives to kill the mysterious man in the future world. All the danger had disappeared after Yun Jian, Ce, and the rest had perished with the mysterious man. Xiaofan did not have to come back and suffer the pain of being captured by the mysterious man and not knowing whether he was alive or dead. However, he chose to give up the safe harbor and used all his spiritual power to tear open the dimensional door and bring Yuan Xian and Ce back to the present. After Yuan Xian answered Yun Jian, he suddenly remembered Xiaofan's request and quickly said to Yun Jian, "Xiaofan doesn't want you to go and save him immediately." I understand. For simple and flat words came out of Yun Jian's thin lips. Her eyes were silent and even her facial expression did not change much. However, Yuan Xian saw a bloodthirsty murderous intent in Yun Jian's words and expression. It was an expression that belonged to slaying God and the sorcerer god. On the bloodthirsty battlefield, they would do anything to achieve their goals. Ring, 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 the school bell rang to signal the end of class. Less than half a minute after the bell rang, Yiji ran out of the classroom, panting. Yuan Xian put on his ghost mask and took one last look at Yun Jian. He said to Yun Jian, "Please keep it a secret. Please, keep this a secret. I don't want my parents and everyone else to bear enormous pressure before that day arrives." Yun Jian responded to Yuan Xian's words with a Yuan Xian, I remember that your birthday is next week. Can you tell me your address? Before Yiji could catch her breath, she placed her hands on her knees and bent over, panting as she spoke. There's no need. Yuan Xian did not look at Yiji. He walked past her and said those words. Not long after, Yuan Jin left this place. I thought he was pitiful. He's alone, so I wanted to celebrate his birthday for him. I haven't seen anyone else by his side for so many years. Yiji looked in the direction Yuan Xing left with a confused expression. He's everywhere, Yun Jian said. Yuan Xian had been following beside Yiji, but he did not show himself. Yiji did not know anything about this. Oh. Yiji didn't understand the meaning of Yun Jian's words, but she still pretended that she understood Yun Jian's words and nodded. I'll see you again next time. Study hard, Yun Jian said to Yiji and left the school. After leaving school, Yun Jian returned to the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China. Her face was expressionless, and her footsteps made no sound. When she arrived at the martial arts club, everyone in the martial arts club was shocked. Yunjian, you? Mo Bufan asked in surprise. But before he finished speaking, Yunjian spoke first. Is there a tour group near the school? Mo Bufan heard this and nodded. Yes, Yunjian, are you going to travel with a tour group? I know someone in a tour group. Where are you going? Sign up for his tour group, and it will take you to your destination. Where are you going? Mo Bufan asked and looked at Yunjian. Yunjian narrowed her eyes. After a pause, Yunjian continued in front of everyone in the martial arts club. Hidden Dragon Mountain. Chapter 26:10. Hey! Hidden Dragon Mountain? I heard that in that place, don't climb to the top of the mountain. The environment is elegant and beautiful, but if you climb to the top of the mountain, you are forbidden to enter. I heard that at the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, there is a real dragon from ancient times. I don't know if it's true or not. There are many adventurers who like to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for adventures. I know a tour guide who will bring a group of people there in 2 days. He will tell you where to go and where not to go. Then, I'll sign you up. Mo Bufan was very concerned about Yunjian's matters. As he spoke, he immediately took out his phone from his pocket and scrolled through his contacts. Thank you. Yunjian responded to Mo Bufan, then turned around and left the martial arts club. Hee. Our president is going to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain for a trip. How about our martial arts club's entire tour group go on a trip together? Zhou Huntao stood up and shook his butt as he suggested. Come on. You organize it. A girl replied to Zhou Huntao with a laugh. All right. It's a deal. Zhou Huntao replied. Halfway up the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there was a boundary that prohibited entry. This was because somewhere in the Hidden Dragon Mountain, there were dangerous groups of ferocious beasts, piranhas, packs of wolves, groups of poisonous snakes, huge lizards, and so on. There were countless of them. It was very difficult to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. You had to pass through layers of danger to reach the top of the mountain. Most of the adventurers who entered Hidden Dragon Mountain all year round died there. As for Yunjian, she planned to follow the tour group to Hidden Dragon Mountain and enter the forbidden area alone. She followed the tour group because the tour group led the way, so she could reach her destination directly. Jiangqing City's largest casino. The casino was filled with the smell of smoke. Yunjian walked in. Most of the people in the casino were greasy uncles. Some people were too excited to gamble and put their feet on the table, not caring about their image. Here, the smell of smoke filled the air. Yunjian walked in with a backpack on her back and was stopped by the casino's person in charge. Hey, little sister, this is not a place you should come to. Leave quickly. The casino's person in charge was obviously trying to persuade Yunjian to leave for her own good, but his tone was not good. Could it be that this little girl likes to gamble? Or was it because his family was short of money and he was using himself as a stake? If you want to use yourself as a stake to bet with us, then I, your son-in-law, will be the first to go. A greasy middle-aged man who had his feet propped on the table and 10 gold rings on both his hands asked lazily as he looked at Yunjian with a wretched expression. Count me in. Me too. Someone in the crowd immediately spoke up. After all, there were all kinds of people in the casino. The world was big, and there were all kinds of strange things. In the casino, one could see a lot of evil faces that one would not normally see. Don't fight with me. Little girl, bet with me. The greasy uncle with gold rings on all 5 of his fingers, who was obviously a rich man, clicked his tongue and said. Just when everyone was laughing and joking around, as if they were watching Yunjian make a fool of herself. Yun Jian pulled open the backpack on her shoulder expressionlessly and flung it at the greasy uncle's face. Walala! A backpack of Grandpa Mao slid out of the backpack, shocking everyone present. Yun Jian's voice that sent chills down one's spine rang abruptly. I know that this casino sells firearms and equipment behind the scenes. I want to buy the best firearms and equipment you have here. Call your head out in 3 minutes. Chapter 26:11. Yun Jian came to this casino in Jiangxing City for only one purpose, and that was to buy the best military equipment as quickly as possible. She wanted to go to the forbidden area of the hidden Dragon Mountain alone. If she met a god, she would kill a god. If she met a demon, she would kill a demon. Anyone who blocked her would be killed. Good tone. Good girl. Ha. Just as Yun Jian finished speaking, a burly man who was 1.78 meters tall walked over from the side of the casino. This 1.78 meters tall middle-aged man was wearing a gray vest. The muscles on his arms were so thick that they were obvious. He had a long beard and looked older than his actual age. The middle-aged man came in front of Yun Jian and said to Yun Jian, "Then, little girl, what kind of military weapons do you want to buy from me?" After that, the middle-aged man narrowed his eyes and looked at Yun Jian. "That depends on what level of military fire you have here." Yun Jian's expression did not change at all. At the end of her sentence, she raised her leg and kicked the stool in front of her. The empty stool collided with the stool that the greasy uncle was sitting on, who had been hit by Yun Jian's backpack of grandpa money. With a bang, the two stools collided with each other. The greasy uncle had yet to recover from the shock just now. At this moment, the backpack that contained the bag of grandpa money that had not been spilled out was accurately thrown in front of the middle-aged man with the help of the elastic force. From the moment Yun Jian kicked the stool until now, she did not look away from the middle-aged man's eyes at all. However, she controlled the strength of her feet to the extreme. There was no deviation at all. She used the stool to throw the bag of grandpa money to the middle-aged man's feet without any deviation. When the surrounding gamblers, including the greasy uncle and the middle-aged man saw this, their pupils constricted and they were shocked. "This money is all yours. Bring the best military equipment here. If the money is not enough, I'll make it up for you." Yun Jian's cold words made the middle-aged man blink fiercely. Her backpack was half the size of her body. The grandpa money in this backpack added up to at least 1,000,000 yuan. The middle-aged man gently licked his lips with the thumb of his right hand. He smiled and stared sharply at Yun Jian. However, he spoke to his subordinate standing behind him. "Go, take out the best equipment from the warehouse." The middle-aged man's men immediately responded and ran to the warehouse. When the gamblers in the casino saw this scene, especially the group of gamblers led by the greasy uncle who teased Yun Jian, they were all stunned. First of all, how did this teenage girl know that this casino was secretly selling firearms? Actually, she was just a little girl. What was the point of spending so much money on firearms? Just as everyone was puzzled, the middle-aged man's subordinates returned from the warehouse. At the same time, they placed a large pile of weapons on an empty chess table. "You make your choice." The middle-aged man gestured to Yun Jian. All the gamblers in the casino stopped in their tracks and stared straight at Yun Jian. Everyone watched as Yun Jian walked towards the pile of firearms, all kinds of pistols, rifles, submachine guns, automatic rifles, assault rifles, and all kinds of grenades. If she could pick the best weapons out of so many weapons, then Yun Jian must be someone who knew guns very well. Everyone was waiting to see Yun Jian's choice. Who knew that Yun Jian would walk to the pile of firearms, pick out 2 pistols, a rifle, and 10 grenades? She put them into her backpack and turned to leave without saying anything. The group of criminals who also didn't know guns were all shocked. Suddenly, the middle-aged man looked at Yun Jian's back as she left. He shook his head and said something that shocked everyone with a funny tone. The only 2 high-performance pistols and a top-notch rifle I have here were taken by her just like that. In order to bring these 3 things back to China, I spent a lot of effort. Chapter 26:12. The middle-aged man's words made all the gamblers present feel shocked by Yun Jian. They came and went in a hurry. Such was the case with small arms deals. When Yun Jian returned to the martial arts club, it was already 1:30 in the afternoon. After returning to the martial arts club, she put her backpack in a corner of the martial arts club. At this time, Mo Bufan walked over. "President, I have already helped you contact the tour group. We can set off tomorrow. You just need to ask for leave from the school." After Mo Bufan finished talking about the key points, he paused and then said, "I know a friend who is going to Hidden Dragon Mountain this time. He is the tour guide of the tour group. Tell him where you want to go. He is quite familiar with Hidden Dragon Mountain and will guide you there." Mo Bufan's words made Yun Jian pursed her red lips slightly and nodded gently, "Thank you." "Hey, what are you thanking me for? The martial arts club is one of us. No need to say thank you." Mo Bufan laughed. Mo Bufan, who was highly sought after by the girls of the University of Electronic Science and Technology of China, and even the female students who knew him to show off, was obedient to Yun Jian. If people knew about this, they would be envious. Early the next morning, Yun Jian went to the tour group to sign up. Those who followed the tour group usually acted in teams. If they wanted to travel to a certain place, it was best not to follow the tour group because there were many restrictions on traveling in a group. Basically, they would not have a good time. One advantage of following the tour group was that they would not find the wrong place. Yun Jian was not traveling. She only needed to find the right place and not take any detours, so she chose to follow the tour group. At this time, not everyone had arrived yet. Yun Jian sat on a bench and waited silently. "Coming. Everyone gather here." Until the tour guide waved to everyone, indicating for them to gather. On the way to Hidden Dragon Mountain in Yun Province, Yun Jian sat in the last row of the bus. There were groups of 2s and 3s all around, chattering excitedly. Yun Jian sat at the back, looking a little lonely. Originally, Yun Jian had decided to go to Hidden Dragon Mountain with Lan Su, but after knowing the truth, she planned to go alone. "Are you the girl named Yun Jian that Bufan asked me to take care of?" "Hello, I'm the tour guide for this trip. My surname is Gu. You can call me Big Brother Gu like everyone else. Sister, you can tell me anything you need along the way. I can show you where you want to go. Bufan asked me to take care of you. You don't have to be polite with me." Yun Jian, who was looking at the window, suddenly heard a male voice. Hearing this, she turned her head to look. A young man in his 30s with a tiger tattoo on his arm chuckled at her. Big Brother Gu was Mo Bufan's friend from the tour group. "Hello, thank you," Yun Jian replied briefly. "Big Brother Gu, quick! Look for the plastic bags. Someone is going to throw up." Someone in front of the bus shouted anxiously. Hearing this, Big Brother Gu quickly said goodbye to Yun Jian and ran to the front of the bus. The journey was very smooth. When they arrived at the hotel, everyone checked in under Big Brother Gu's arrangements. This hotel in Yun Province was built with bamboo and had the unique aura of Yun Province's ethnic minorities. When her feet stepped on the hotel stairs, they could make a soft creaking sound. After checking in, everyone returned to the hotel after dinner. Yun Jian went straight to the front desk of the hotel. Standing at the front desk of the hotel was a young girl who was about the same age as Yun Jian. This young girl was wearing Yun Province's ethnic clothing. She wore a Miao tribe hat on her head and her clothes were adorned with many small accessories. When she walked, these small accessories would make a crisp rustling sound when they collided with each other. "Hello, the young girl said with a smile when she saw Yunjian walking towards her. "Hello, I'd like to ask how to reach the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain," Yunjian said directly. Who knew that when the young girl heard Yunjian's words, her hand paused. In the next second, the abacus in the young girl's hand suddenly slipped from her hand onto the table. She looked as if she was afraid and thought of something terrifying. She exclaimed, "You want to go to the peak of Shrouding Dragon Mountain? Calm. Wonderful book house." Chapter 26:13. When the girl heard Yunjian's words, her face was full of horror as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yunjian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yunjian. "I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here, and that person, he's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain, so when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control." This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yunjian nodded slightly. "My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive." The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yunjian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. Run. Run." This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. "Thank you for the reminder." Seeing this, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, "But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain." Seeing how persistent Yunjian was, the woman shook her head and sighed. "All right, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain." After getting the map, Yunjian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yunjian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. "Wait. Do you also want to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain? Let's go together." Yunjian turned around when she heard the voice. He saw a few familiar faces. "Huh, we also took the tour group bus with you. When we came, we saw you looking at the window. You probably didn't pay much attention to us." "Hello, my name is Zhou Bapi. People call me Zhou Bapi. You can call me Bapi bro." Standing at the front was a fat man who was about 169 meters tall and weighed a full 160 pounds. He patted his belly and said, "If you're also going to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, let's go together." A handsome man who was about 1.8 meters tall and looked cold said to Yunjian. The only girl in the team winked at Yunjian and said with a smile, "Welcome. Then we have 5 people. Chapter 26:14. When the girl heard Yunjian's words, her face was full of horror as if she was frightened. Seeing this, Yunjian's expression didn't change at all. She naturally knew the reason why the girl was so shocked and trembling. The top of Hidden Dragon Mountain seemed to be cursed by someone. It was rumored that those who went to the top of the mountain were either dead or disabled. Many adventurers and explorers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain to find the truth, but they all lost their lives here. Just when the girl was stunned, a woman who was more mature than the girl and dressed like the girl, but dressed more maturely, pulled the girl behind her and smiled at Yunjian. "I'm sorry, because some time ago, several adventurers went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, and only one person returned here, and that person, he's already crazy. My daughter was scared by the person who came back from Hidden Dragon Mountain, so when she heard the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, she lost control." This woman was obviously more mature than the girl. Hearing this, Yunjian nodded slightly. "My advice is that you don't go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. It's definitely not a fun place. Look at the young man sitting on the bench at the door. He went to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain last time, and he was the only one who came back alive." The woman pointed to a young man sitting on a bench near the gate, his head and body trembling incessantly as he counted on his fingers. When the people in the tour group who came here with Yunjian heard the woman's words, they looked at the young man sitting at the door with some fear and curiosity. He saw the young man counting his fingers over and over again. His eyes were bigger than a dead fish, and he kept shaking his head and muttering in fear, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Dead. Dead, dead, dead. Big monster. There's a big monster. Run. Run. Run." This young man, who should be no different from a normal person, was completely crazy. He kept repeating the movements of his hands and the words of his mouth over and over again. "Thank you for the reminder." Seeing this, Yunjian narrowed her eyes slightly. In the end, she turned around and walked out of the door with her backpack. At the moment when she was about to walk out of the door, she turned to look at the woman and said, "But I must go to the peak of the Hidden Dragon Mountain." Seeing that Yunjian was so persistent, the woman shook her head and sighed. "Okay, be careful. I have a map of the entrance to the peak of Hidden Dragon Mountain." After getting the map, Yunjian left the hotel without hesitation. She didn't even inform Brother Gu and went to the entrance to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. This was a cave that stretched as far as the eye could see. No one knew what was on the other side of the cave. Just as Yunjian was about to step forward, she heard a voice behind her. "Wait. Do you also want to go to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain? Let's go together." Yunjian turned around when she heard the voice. He saw a few familiar faces. "Huh, we also took the tour group bus with you. When we came, we saw that you kept looking at the window. You probably didn't pay much attention to us." "Hello, my name is Zhou Bapi. People call me Bapi Zhou. You can call me Bapi bro." Standing at the front was a fat man who was about 169 meters tall and weighed a full 160 pounds. He patted his belly and said, "If you're also going to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain, let's go together." A handsome man who was about 1.8 meters tall and looked cold said to Yunjian. The only girl in the team winked at Yunjian and said with a smile, "Welcome. Then we have 5 people. Calm. Wonderful book house." Chapter 26:15. Zhang Xuanfei, Wang Lei, Dong Wendong, and Zhou Bapi were not ordinary people. It could be seen from their skills that they were different from ordinary people. The 4 of them listened to Yunjian's words. The snakes around them were either killed or burned to death by Yunjian's bite of the grenades and diesel. They were originally worried that they would be bitten by the snakes while running. After all, there were almost 100 snakes that came out of the grass. Now that there were no obstacles, the 4 of them started running. Zhang Xuanfei and the others only breathed a sigh of relief when they reached an open area. "Where's Yunjian? Is she here?" They ran to a relatively open area with fewer weeds. Wang Lei looked back and did not see Yun Jian following them. Her face darkened. "Didn't you notice if she's following us?" Fatty Zhou Bapi panted the loudest. He leaned over and held his knees as he panted. When the other two heard this, they shook their heads. "I'll go back and save her." After waiting for about 10 minutes, Yun Jian did not come back. Zhang Xuanfei, who was the leader of the four, turned around and walked back. Wang Lei was one step ahead of Zhang Xuanfei. She reached out and grabbed the corner of Zhang Xuanfei's shirt. "No. You can't forget why we're here. If we fail the mission, we'll die. But there are more than 4 of us. Those people are controlling our families. If we don't get the thing, won't our families?" Wang Lei's voice became softer and softer. Just as Wang Lei finished speaking, a series of noises rang out from the direction the 4 of them had come from. Yun Jian walked over with her huge backpack. There was not a single trace of dirt on her body. "Yun Jian. You heard it?" Wang Lei's face changed slightly. Zhang Xuanfei, Zhou Bapi, and the others swallowed hard. Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others had secrets. If a normal girl heard Wang Lei's words, she would probably rush up and ask Wang Lei why they didn't go back to save her. Or perhaps, after knowing that Wang Lei and the others had a secret, they kept pestering Wang Lei and the others to tell them about it. However, Yun Jian did not. She carried her backpack and walked past Wang Lei and the others without any change in her expression. "It's time to continue." "Yun Jian, you're not angry?" Wang Lei stared at Yun Jian. Following Yun Jian, she turned around and asked in shock. "If it were me, I would do the same." Yun Jian didn't turn around. She just replied casually. This reply made Wang Lei really speechless. She opened her mouth, but in the end, she didn't say anything. The group carried their respective luggage and continued walking. Other than the hundreds of cobras that suddenly appeared when they first entered the cave, there was no other danger along the way. Although the mountain road wasn't easy to walk on, everyone spent 2 hours and finally arrived at a place very close to the top of Hidden Dragon Mountain. The next hour's journey was quite smooth. However, when they were going up the slope, they saw many skeletons of animals thrown into the grass. "What? There's no danger. Why do people outside say that on Hidden Dragon Mountain, those who enter the mountain are either dead or disabled? I really don't understand." Fatty Zhou Bapi could be considered a lively person. He was bored and held a weed in his mouth, panting as he climbed the mountain. "Fatty, shut up. Remember to be vigilant at all times," Zhang Xuanfei scolded. Then, he looked at Yun Jian and said to her, "I think this place is a bit strangely quiet. Did you find anything else?" When Zhang Xuanfei asked this question, Yun Jian didn't respond at all at first. Everyone followed Yun Jian all the way and knew Yun Jian's character. She didn't reply, which meant that she didn't want to pay attention to it. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian wouldn't speak, Yun Jian suddenly pursed her red lips and said something that made everyone's hair stand on end. "The things that were casually thrown into the grass on the side of the mountain road are not animals, but human skeletons." Calm. Wonderful book house. Calm. Chapter 26:16. Suddenly hearing Yun Jian's words, coupled with the quietness along the way, Zhang Xuanfei, Zhou Bapi, Wang Lei, and Dong Wenming stopped and looked at the skeletons that were casually thrown into the bushes on the side of the mountain road. Those skeletons had been completely scattered and could only be vaguely seen as a pile of scattered skeletons. Under normal circumstances, seeing this pile of skeletons on the mountain, normal people would think that it was a pile of animal skeletons. Yun Jian's words directly shocked everyone. "What did you say?" "All we saw along the way were human skeletons," Wang Lei exclaimed. "Yun Jian, why did you say that they were human skeletons?" As the leader, Zhang Xuanfei frowned and turned to look at Yun Jian. Although the fatty Zhou Bapi was also frightened, he was much calmer than Wang Lei. At that time, Zhou Bapi looked at Yun Jian and said, "If these are all human skeletons, then these people, could it be that they were the people who entered Hidden Dragon Mountain and died in Hidden Dragon Mountain in the past?" After Zhou Bapi said this, everyone's face sank. They were completely shocked by Zhou Bapi's guess. At this time, Yun Jian pointed to a huge skull on the side of the mountain road. When everyone was still unsure whether the skeleton on the side of the mountain road was a human skeleton, she said indifferently, "That's a skull. That's a head. You guys should be able to tell the difference between a human head and an animal head." After Yun Jian's words, Wang Lei directly grabbed the arm of the fatty Zhou Bapi who was closest to her and screamed in fright, "Ah! Ah ah ah! It's a human! That's a human skull! What we saw along the way must be human skeletons. What is this place? How could this be?" Wang Lei's scream made the other three people, except for Yun Jian, suffocate in fright. Just when Wang Lei and the other three people's hearts were trembling, Yun Jian suddenly turned over and entered the bushes full of human skeletons. This scene could be said to have completely frightened Wang Lei and the other three. She was just a teenage girl. Wasn't she afraid of the skeletons in the bushes? Just thinking about it made their hair stand on end. And what about Yun Jian? She actually jumped directly into the pile of human bones. Originally, Wang Lei thought that she and Zhang Xuanfei's group of 4 had an unspeakable secret. What happened to them was even more shocking. But now, Yun Jian's strange actions were so mysterious that they didn't dare to suffocate. What kind of past had she gone through? Wang Lei and the other 3 were dumbfounded. While he was still in shock, Yun Jian had already jumped out of the bushes full of skeletons. She gently rubbed her right hand as if she was feeling the skeletons that she had just touched. "Yun Jian, where did you go just now?" Wang Lei asked. As soon as Wang Lei said this, Yun Jian spoke first. "The owners of these skeletons all suffered serious injuries when they were alive. You actually know how to perform an autopsy?" Dong Wenming, who had been silently holding a laptop in his hand, suddenly looked up at Yun Jian in shock and asked in a daze. "An." Yun Jian nodded slightly. Then, with Yun Jian leading, the group continued to move up the mountain. But because of the things that happened before, when the group continued to move up the mountain, their hearts were suddenly filled with something called horror. Except for Yun Jian, the other 4 people's expressions changed 1,000 times. After another half an hour, the 5 people finally arrived at the top of the Hidden Dragon Mountain. The road up the Hidden Dragon Mountain didn't seem to be very dangerous, but there was a kind of creepy feeling everywhere. It was as if there was something frightening waiting for them. At the top of the Hidden Dragon Mountain was a huge palace. And in front of the palace, there was a large martial arts arena. The architectural style of this large martial arts arena was extremely similar to the martial arts arenas in modern online games. If everything here looked so ordinary as the top of an ordinary mountain, then the large bloodstains on this large martial arts arena gave people a kind of fear that came from the depths of their souls. This large martial arts arena was covered with countless blood. Because no one cleaned it for many years, not only did the dried bloodstains turn into a dark red color, they could even smell the rotten and bloody smell of the dried blood on this large martial arts arena from far away. Ugh, Wang Lei saw this scene and couldn't help but turn her head and retch. At this moment, everyone saw that in front of the large martial arts arena, more than 10 black-robed people appeared from head to toe. And in front of the black-robed people, stood a woman with an enchanting figure. That woman was clearly the leader of this group of black-robed people. The woman slowly turned around under the gazes of Yun Jian, Wang Lei, and the other 3 people. The moment she saw the woman's face, Yun Jian fiercely frowned in front of Wang Lei and the other 3 people and called out, "Shenji! Calm! Wonderful book house! Calm!" Chapter 26:17. Hidden Dragon Mountain did indeed have a third divine weapon. However, based on the current situation, the third divine tool hidden in Hidden Dragon Mountain must have been taken away by the mysterious person. And this place had been set up with an inescapable net. They were just waiting for Yunjian to come so that they could capture Yunjian in one fell swoop. After Yunjian entered the large arena, a thin layer of spirit energy rose from the semicircular arena. This was enough to prove that the mastermind behind all this was the mysterious person. And the people waiting for Yunjian here were Shenji and this self-proclaimed younger brother of Master Jiuhuang, whose head had been twisted by Ce not long ago. This black-robed man who claimed to be Master Jiuhuang's younger brother was called Lin Wu. When Lin Wu saw Yunjian standing in the semicircular barrier surrounded by spirit energy and leaning back, he laughed loudly again. This is the spirit energy that Master has just given me. Combined with the 10,000 times potion, this barrier is created. Even if you are the witch god of Yulong continent, you won't be able to escape. Today, you are dead meat. From the faint layer of spirit energy barrier that clearly didn't belong to Earth trapping Yunjian to everything that had happened after. It was telling Wang Lei, Zhou Bapi, Zhang Xuanfei, and Dong Wenming that what they were seeing was beyond reality and beyond science. This was like a sci-fi movie. No, it was even more terrifying than a sci-fi movie. Wang Lei and the others were so scared that their faces were twitching. Master Lin Wu, you don't have to do anything to kill her. I alone am enough. Shenji, who was standing in the barrier with Yunjian, spoke up. Shenji looked at Yunjian with murderous eyes. All right. Since you have already received part of my spirit energy, then you, Shenji, will be the one to defeat her. Lin Wu narrowed his eyes and looked at Yunjian like he was looking at a dead person. Shenji had received part of Lin Wu's spirit energy. Lin Wu had given it to Shenji. Its main purpose was to allow Shenji to use the spirit energy he had given her to escape after Shenji lured Yunjian into the large arena. The sorcerer god of Yulong continent would be the only one who would die in this arena. What's more, Lin Wu had used all of his spiritual power to set up the barrier. If Yunjian managed to escape from the barrier, or if he had to deal with Yunjian alone, he would only be beaten up by Yunjian. 006, this is the last time I challenge you. Shenji raised her hands. She rested her sword on her shoulder and looked at Yunjian. Yunjian held the two butterfly knives in her hands and said cheerfully, I accept your challenge. At this moment, this scene was similar to the battle between Yunjian and Shenji in the Anhun organization, where only one of them could survive. Just like before, they were trapped in a large cage. Only the person who killed the other party had the right to leave the cage alive. The only difference was that the cage had turned into a barrier made of spiritual power. Aside from that, it was still the same battle, the same situation, and the same battlefield where only one of them could survive. Shenji waved her sword. Without any warning, she began the battle. She slashed down heavily at Yunjian. Yunjian dodged to the side, avoiding Shenji's attack. She turned around and wrapped her hand around Shenji's arm. Shenji flipped around and did a backflip. The two of them were both from the Anhun organization. If they really fought, they were evenly matched. After all, while Shenji saw Yunjian as her only opponent in the world, Yunjian also saw Shenji as her only opponent. The two of them had grown to become the strongest assassins in the world under these circumstances. Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others were so shocked that their hearts were pounding. The two of them fought for a full 5 minutes. Lin Wu watched as Yunjian dodged Shenji's attack and circled behind Shenji. She wanted to stab the butterfly knife into Shenji's back. Shenji had no time to think about anything else. Just as Shenji was about to lose, Lin Wu raised his hand and used his spiritual power to control the blades inside the barrier. He attacked Yunjian. One blade after another was enough to kill Yunjian before she had time to think about anything else. Lin Wu's smile deepened. Heavens! Yunjian, run! Wang Lei screamed in fear. However, the blade was already close to Yunjian's side. Just as everyone thought that Yunjian was going to die, Shenji suddenly turned around and grabbed Yunjian's wrist. She gripped the long sword in her hand and stabbed it viciously at Yunjian's neck. The long sword was about to pierce Yunjian's neck. Just as it was about to pierce Yunjian's body, Shenji used Lin Wu's spiritual energy to open a passage that was big enough for one person to leave swiftly while he tossed the saber away with his other hand and grabbed Yunjian, flinging her out of the passage that was big enough for one person to leave at once. Shenji flashed a regretful smile at Yunjian the moment his heart was pierced by thousands of arrows. Just like how she had confidently said to Yunjian countless times, "I will definitely surpass you." Shenji's seductive face curved up slightly. Countless blades pierced through Shenji's organs. She watched as Yunjian was safely sent out of the barrier. She licked the blood from the corner of her mouth and said regretfully to Yunjian, "I lost. After leaving the organization for so many years, I still can't surpass you. I don't think I'll ever have the chance to challenge you again. But I still want to tell you something, 006, I will definitely surpass you. If there's an afterlife, I will. Chapter 26:18. If Lin Wu hadn't tricked her midway, Yunjian's knife would have pierced Shenji's back. Shenji could have used Lin Wu's trick to defeat Yunjian with a sneak attack. She had a choice, a chance to defeat Yunjian. But she wasn't confident. Perhaps in Shenji's eyes, she would only win if she defeated Yunjian fair and square. But she'd spent her entire life chasing after Yunjian. Even at the end of her life, she hadn't been able to surpass Yunjian. She knew that if Lin Wu hadn't interfered, she wouldn't have been able to get close to Yunjian. But she'd lost the last battle. What a pity. She had no more chances. Shenji felt her organs hurt like crazy. Her eyelids felt heavy, as if she could fall asleep at any moment. Being flung out of the barrier, Yunjian knelt on one knee on the ground. Her pupils constricted as the object in her hand rubbed her palm until it was bleeding profusely. As she gripped the item too tightly, blood oozed out of her palm. The blood that flowed from her palm looked like it would never stop, causing Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others who were watching from afar to feel their hearts skip a beat. They'd thought it was just a show of friends betraying each other. Who would have thought that the tables would turn so drastically? Just as Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others sucked in their breaths, thinking that Yunjian would break down and scream like a normal teenage girl after witnessing the scene, Yunjian was stunned. Yunjian suddenly stood up. Her face was still expressionless. She looked up at Shenji, who was in the large arena. Her lips curved into a smile that made the world lose its color. While Wang Lei, Zhang Xuanfei, and the others were surprised that Yunjian could still laugh at a time like this, Yunjian took 2 steps forward. 3 seconds before Shenji closed his eyes for the last time, she mimicked what she had retorted the first time she met Shenji and spoke softly, "I'm sorry. No matter how many lives I've lived, you will always be defeated by me. I will wait for you. Remember your promise. My opponent can only be you." Yunjian had never admitted to Shenji that she saw her as an opponent. Because of this, Shenji couldn't accept it. She wanted to surpass Yunjian. She wanted to make Yunjian admit that she saw her as an opponent. Shenji had fought hard for her short life just to prove herself. She did not ask for anything else in her life but for Yunjian to acknowledge her personally. That way, she could die without regrets. Shenji had a dream. A very, very long dream, one that she would never wake up from for the rest of her life. In the dream, 2 8-year-old girls had met for the first time in a cage made of iron. But their first meeting had been met with no other choice. In her dream, she pointed the knife at the other party and swore loudly, "The one who can walk out of this cage today is me." In the dream, the other girl, who was covered in blood like her, had a cold look in her eyes. Her eyes were as cold as the blood and wounds on her body. That was the first time she'd heard her speak. Her face was expressionless. Her voice was cold as she pointed at the pile of corpses outside the cage. In 1 minute, you'll be like them. You'll be defeated by my blade. Because of this one sentence, her fate in the dream had been changed. She had been defeated by him. These 4 words had been used throughout her entire life. It was the beginning of her fate and the end of her life. Chapter 26:19. Yun Jian. Wang Lei said worriedly when she saw that Yun Jian was tightly clutching something that she couldn't tell from its appearance. Yun Jian's current state scared Wang Lei. If Yun Jian's appearance had made Wang Lei and the others feel that she was just a naive teenage girl when they entered the cave, then now, they were filled with doubts about Yun Jian. Wang Lei and the others had come to Shrouded Dragon Mountain with a goal in mind. Wang Lei and the others were very mysterious because of their secrets. It was hard to believe even if they were told. But when they saw the scene in front of them, they were shocked. Yun Jian's secrets were something that even the secrets in their hearts couldn't compare to. Shen Ji hadn't betrayed her. He never had. Yun Jian was tightly clutching something. It was an ancient bronze wooden hairpin. Wooden hairpins were something that women in ancient times put into their hair to tie it up. The one in Yun Jian's hand was the 3rd divine artifact apart from the sandalwood box and wooden fan. It was something that Shen Ji had secretly stuffed into her hand when he tossed her out of the arena that was enveloped by a huge barrier during her battle with him just now. As soon as the wooden hairpin entered her hand, Yun Jian felt a strong spiritual power. It was Xing Feng's aura. Damn it! Damn it! Damn it! Shen Ji, you actually betrayed the master. Damn you! When Lin Wu saw this, he was so angry that he went crazy. He clenched his fists tightly, and a wave of spirit energy that was clearly not as strong as before flew out from his body and rushed into the large battle arena that was surrounded by a barrier. Puff puff puff. Shen Ji's corpse was trapped in the large arena by the powerful barrier. More blades stabbed into it and the corpse was unrecognizable. You actually dared to betray the master. You actually dared to betray me. Die. 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 Lin Wu seemed to have gone crazy. He began to madly destroy Shen Ji's body. The master that Lin Wu spoke of was undoubtedly the mysterious person. But 3 seconds after Lin Wu destroyed Shen Ji's body, his spiritual power seemed to be blocked midway. He suddenly stopped in place. Lin Wu's expression changed drastically. It's you who deserves to die. Just as Lin Wu raised his head, he suddenly saw the girl who was standing in the distance slowly walking towards him. The blood that flowed down from her palm splattered all the way, but Yun Jian seemed to have lost her sense of pain. Her face was expressionless. Wherever she went, the blood followed. Lin Wu's heart tightened. The 10 black-robed men standing beside Lin Wu attacked Yun Jian one after another. At this time, Yun Jian's other hand that was not holding the wooden hairpin suddenly rose into the air. Boom boom boom. A spiritual energy that was many times stronger than Lin Wu's condensed in front of Wang Lei and the others. She. Wang Lei and the other 3 were so scared that their faces suddenly changed. However, at the moment when Wang Lei and the other 3 were so scared that their faces turned green, that powerful spiritual energy had already swept up more than a dozen black-robed men. At the same time, the black-robed men, with the exception of Lin Wu, were crushed like tomatoes. Their bodies instantly exploded into rivers of blood. Not even a single bone was left. Who the hell is she? Zhang Xuanfei's expression was so scared that words couldn't describe it. Zhang Xuanfei, the calmest of the 4, shouted in shock. But at this moment, Yun Jian looked at Lin Wu as the blood dripped down. Her face was still expressionless as she spoke in a dark, sinister voice, "It's your turn. It's your turn. What kind of death do you want to try?" Chapter 26-20. Yun Jian's words were terrifying, shocking Zhang Xuanfei and the rest as well as Lin Wu. Lin Wu had never been in such a dangerous situation. He felt fear spreading from the bottom of his heart, a fear that came from the depths of his soul spiraling within him. What terrifying ability! If Shenji had not fought Yun Jian in the arena just now, killing Yun Jian would have been harder than ascending to the heavens. He had overestimated himself. He had underestimated Yun Jian. Even if Shenji had not intervened, Yun Jian might not have died. Lin Wu took 2 big steps back, turned around, and tried to escape. However, just as Lin Wu was about to turn around and flee, a monstrous spiritual energy enveloped the entire area. There was no way Lin Wu could escape. His eyes widened in fear. You. Lin Wu's exposed pair of pitch-black eyes flashed with an incomparably terrifying color. His pupils shrunk into a ball at this moment. Just as Lin Wu watched Yun Jian draw closer to him, Lin Wu's eyes widened. Yun Jian, who had been at least a dozen meters away from him, was suddenly right in front of him. Yun Jian did have the ability to make cultivators lose all their spiritual energy when they were within 3 meters of her. However, the mysterious person had already developed a potion that could counter her physique, so it was no longer effective to the mysterious person. Lin Wu's pupils contracted violently as he was about to attack Yun Jian again. The deicide blade that suddenly appeared in Yun Jian's hand was already plunged into Lin Wu's body. She spoke faintly, but her words sent chills down Wang Lei and the rest's spines. "Since you don't want to die, I'll slice your flesh into pieces, piece by piece." While Yun Jian had the upper hand here, Yizhi had just returned home from school in Longmen City. Mom! The teacher praised me in class today," Yizhi shouted as soon as she entered. At home, Yizhi could communicate with Qin Yiru and Gu Junjian in normal language. However, she was still afraid of her classmates in school. The fear of people that came from the depths of her soul and her innate cowardice was something that would never change for Yizhi. After all, her birth was unnecessary. She was already lucky to be able to live to this day. "Your parents are out." Just as Yizhi dashed into the house, a man's deep voice rang from the side. In the next second, Yuan Xing with a ghost mask appeared before Yizhi. "Oh!" Yizhi was stunned before she ran to the sofa. She tossed her bag down and went out the door, ignoring Yuan. Seeing this, Yuan Jin blinked his eyes and followed. When they arrived at Lan Su's house, Yizhi opened the door first. As soon as she entered, she hugged Lan Su tightly and then walked towards Zhou Yiran's small room. The little kid and the girl were now playing with Zhou Yu. Yuan Xing saw Yizhi walk into Zhou Yiran's room and followed her in. However, Lan Su did not see him. At this moment, Zhou Yiran was using the fact that he was taller than the little fellow. He pushed the little fellow aside with one foot and held the little girl with the other hand. He held the little girl in his arms very intimately. "Look at what I've brought you guys." Yizhi took out a few biscuits and passed them to them with a grin. Yuan Xing glanced at the pitiful little kid who was being held by Zhou Yu's toe and suddenly recalled what Xingfeng had told him when he transmigrated back to the present from the future. "If you see Zhou Yu, remember to grab him and beat him up. He's always bullied me when I was young." Chapter 26-21. If he guessed correctly, this little guy who was being pressed down by Zhou Yiran's foot was Xing Feng, the one who took charge of everything and traveled through time with him unswervingly. Cough. Yuan Xing looked at the little guy pressed down by Zhou Yiran's foot and compared him to Xing Feng. He almost laughed out loud. But in the end, Yuan Xing suppressed his laughter and coughed softly. He walked over and picked up Zhou Yiran according to Xing Feng's instructions. What are you doing? Are you bullying the child? Let go. Let go. Yi Ji saw Yuan Xing suddenly grab Zhou Yiran. She walked over and grabbed Yuan Xing's sleeve, desperately trying to drag him out of the door. Yuan Xing could only let go of Yi Ji's hand. When he first met Yi Ji was still very afraid of him. He didn't expect Yi Ji to be so bold as to grab him. Yuan Xing narrowed his eyes. Just as he let go of Zhou Yiran's hand, Zhou Yiran slid back onto the bed and angrily kicked Yuan Xing's wrist. With this kick, Yuan Xing's hand was kicked away and landed on Yi Ji's voluptuous breasts. Because he didn't react in time, when he grabbed Yi Ji's chest, Yuan Xing's hand reflexively squeezed. The air was silent for a while. Yuan Xing and Yi Ji were both stunned. When Yi Ji finally reacted, she pushed Yuan Xian's hand away and muttered under her breath as she ran out, "Hooligan! Pervert!" Yuan Xing, who was standing in the same spot, didn't expect this. But that touch was soft. Cough, it was very comfortable. Yun Jian spent an hour cutting Lin Wu into pieces. Wang Lei and the others were already sitting on the ground, completely shocked by the bloody scene in front of them. After cutting Lin Wu into pieces, Yun Jian didn't even look at Wang Lei and the others. She took Shenji's body away and quickly disappeared from their sight. It was as if she had never been to Hidden Dragon Mountain. Shenji was the same as Yun Jian. He was from country Z. Yun Jian spent 3 hours to find Shenji's hometown. She still remembered one time, the only time, when she and Shenji had sat shoulder to shoulder and talked all night. Shenji said that other than surpassing her, she also had a dream. She wanted to be buried in her birthplace after she died. She wanted to be buried like a normal person and enter the family tree. Yun Jian had been abducted when she was young and entered the Enhan organization. Shenji, on the other hand, had run away from home and joined Enhan of his own free will. Shenji was born in a family that favored boys over girls. Her parents treated her like a slave when she was young, and even called her an adopted daughter. When she was young, she couldn't bear it and ran away from home. Coincidentally, she joined the Enhan organization. However, when she joined the Enhan organization, she did not know that the survival of the organization was so cruel. After Shenji left Enhan, he never looked for his family again. Qinghai City, Haidao Town. Haidao Town was completely different from Xinjiang Town. Most of the residents of Haidao Town relied on fishing for a living. Although it was a town, it was rich in seafood. Furthermore, it was a coastal city, so the economic conditions were not bad. Yun Jian held an urn of ashes in her hands and knocked on the door of a courtyard house in Haidao Town. Shenji's family still retained the ancient courtyard house style, and their way of life was still the same. The mother-in-law and daughter-in-law lived together, and the uncle and sister-in-law lived together. Yun Jian had seen the woman who opened the door before. She was Shenji's mother, Yunhua. "You are?" Yunhua glanced at Yun Jian and asked casually when he saw that it was a girl who knocked on the door. Yun Jian also glanced at Yunhua and was about to enter. "I'm taking your daughter to the ancestral hall." The ancestral hall was the place where the clan worshipped their ancestors or sages in ancient times. It was also the place where the clan leader exercised his authority. If ordinary clansmen violated the clan rules, they would be educated and punished here. Clearly, Shenji's family still retained the style of the previous century. Entering the ancestral hall meant that it was an honor for such a family to be buried and enter the family tree. However, Yunhua's expression suddenly changed when she heard Yun Jian say, her daughter. She swished in front of Yun Jian and said with an extremely ugly expression, "Who are you? I've never had a daughter. My family only has 3 sons. How can I have a daughter? How dare you talk nonsense in front of someone else's house? I'm going to call the police." Chapter 26-22. When Yunhua said this, her eyes dodged, as if someone had seen through her hidden thoughts for many years. As she spoke, she reached out to hold the door, wanting to lock Yunjian outside. Just as the door was slowly closed by Yunhua until there was only a thin gap left, a long, slender leg suddenly stretched out. A slender, straight, and beautiful leg suddenly stretched out and pressed against the crack of the door, preventing Yunhua from completely closing and locking the door. What's going on? Why are you so strange? It's fine if you go to someone else's house and spout nonsense. But you still want to barge into someone else's house? Just by looking at Yunhua for the first time, Yunhua was not an unreasonable shrew. As a person, she had a bottom line. Yunjian's words had probably touched Yunhua's bottom line, causing her to panic. It was the feeling of a secret that had been hidden for many years suddenly being exposed in front of others. It was like staying up late to play with your phone in school and suddenly being discovered by your mother. Yunhua felt that way at this moment. Yunjian, who had used her foot to block the gap of the door, looked up slightly. Her eyes were cold. Only then did Yunhua look straight into Yunjian's eyes. Her heart involuntarily trembled. Her gaze was too cold. As long as her memorial tablet is placed in the ancestral hall and her name is recorded in the family tree, I'll leave. This was Yunjian's last wish to fulfill for Shunji. Seeing Yunjian's unrelenting expression, Yunhua was afraid that this matter would blow up and cause the old master and old madam in charge of the family to rush out when they heard the news. Yunhua gulped. She opened the door and walked out. Then, she closed the door halfway and looked around. Seeing that no one was passing by, Yunhua counted 500 yuan from her pocket and placed it on Shunji's urn that Yunjian was holding. She pleaded with Yunjian, "It's not like I'm not a mother. Our Qing family is only allowed to have boys and not girls. If anyone gives birth to a daughter, they will be looked down upon by their husbands and bullied by their mothers-in-law and fathers-in-law." I was also at my wit's end. When the child went missing, I was also afraid. On the day she left, I followed her all the way. In the end, I watched her leave with a man who gave her bread and felt relieved. You can keep the money. I really don't have any money. If the daughter-in-law of the Cheng family hides money, she will be punished according to the family rules. I know I've let the child down, but I have no choice but to ask you for help. Shunji's surname was Cheng. The Cheng family that Yunhua had mentioned was Shunji's family. Yunhua's lips had been trembling ever since he heard the news of Shunji's death. But after marrying into a feudalistic family, she didn't dare to get a divorce and was even more afraid of losing everything she had now. As the saying goes, a married woman obeys her husband. Yunhua herself was not a person who favored boys over girls. Because she was afraid that she would not live well in her husband's family, she could only obey her in-laws. Yunhua thought that if he gave Yunjian money, Yunjian would leave. Unexpectedly, Yunjian held Shunji's ashes with one hand and threw the money back to her with the other. She said coldly, "I don't want money. I just want her to enter the Cheng family's ancestral hall." Yunjian's persistence made Yunhua anxious. Just as Yunhua was panicking, old Master Cheng's strong male voice sounded from behind the door. "Who do you want to enter my Cheng family's ancestral hall?" The half-closed door behind him was opened. An old man in his 70s walked out of the courtyard majestically with a walking stick. His eyes were sharp and his eyes were sparkling. He had the aura of a feudal landlord in ancient times. Behind him was a large group of descendants, all of whom were men. Old Master Cheng looked at Yunjian with a dignified aura. Under everyone's gaze, he repeated to Yunjian, "My Cheng family doesn't have a biological daughter wandering outside. Moreover, she's just a woman and not the mistress of the family. How can she have the right to enter my Cheng family's ancestral hall?" Chapter 26-23. Moreover, Who knows what's in the urn you're holding? The old man's words carried a strong aura. Even those who didn't know the situation would have an illusion that the old man's words were reasonable after hearing the old man's righteous words. If a family favored sons over daughters, there would be no peace if a daughter was born. If both her father-in-law and mother-in-law favored sons over daughters, then it would be over. And you can never imagine how frightening it is when a family that retains a feudal mindset values their sons. In fact, none of the old women Yun Jian had met in the countryside could compare to how much the Qing family valued their sons. In the Qing family, if a daughter-in-law couldn't give birth to a son, the Qing family's men had the right to find another woman to have a son with. Even the country's policies couldn't do anything about it. Under Grandpa Cheng's threatening gaze, the younger generation of the Qing family, including Yun Hua, all thought that Yun Jian would turn and leave. However, Yun Jian strode forward expressionlessly. She didn't even look at Grandpa Cheng as she walked past him and the rest of the Qing family into the courtyard. I said, I want her to be buried in the Qing family's ancestral hall. Qing Ziyin, born on a rainy night on August 6, 1984. I want her to be buried in the Qing family's most glorious way. Her memorial tablet will be placed in the Qing family's ancestral hall, and her name will be recorded in the Qing family's genealogy. Yun Jian held Shenji's urn and spoke one word without taking a step. She was very calm. Every word was like the cold conversation she had with Shenji in the past. Her heavy words were spoken for everyone present to hear. Qing Ziyin was Shenji's original name. She had long abandoned her surname and name. Today, Yun Jian had picked up her surname and name and brought her back to the Qing family. She would fulfill Shenji's wish and bury her as an ordinary person. Yun Jian's words were even more imposing and arrogant than Grandpa Cheng's. Everyone in the Qing clan heaved a sigh of relief when they heard this. She thought that after Yun Jian's words, old Master Cheng would fly into a rage again. Unexpectedly, the old man's eyes widened as he stared at Yun Jian. You! How do you know that on the rainy night of August 6, 1984, Yun Hua gave birth to a child? Those who knew about this matter had been dismissed from the Qing family for more than 10 years. Besides, isn't that child a stillborn? Why? There were very few people who knew about what had happened more than 20 years ago. But how old was Yun Jian? She could actually remember something that happened more than 20 years ago. Find out everything. Plop. Just as the old man was puzzled, Yun Hua suddenly knelt in front of everyone. That child is mine. They're mine. I gave birth to a girl, Ziyin. Ziyin is my biological daughter. I didn't adopt her later on. She's my biological daughter. Yun Hua suddenly burst into tears. 20 years ago, Yun Hua gave birth to Shenji. When she realized that she had given birth to a girl, she found a nanny to bring back a stillborn baby and lied to the Qing clan that the child had died. Less than 2 days later, he adopted another child. The child he adopted was actually Yun Hua's biological son, Shenji. Later, Shenji couldn't take it anymore. She ran away from home and never came back. Everyone in the Qing clan was stunned by Yun Hua's sudden admission. I've let my child down. But what can I do? What can I do? If you knew that I gave birth to a girl, would I still have a foothold in the Qing clan? Calm. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 26-24. Yes, if the fact that Yun Hua gave birth to a girl was exposed, the Qing family would only think that she was a sow who couldn't give birth to a son. In such a feudal family, if you were judged to be a woman who couldn't give birth to a son, your husband would leave you for another woman. Everyone in the family would look down on you. Yun Hua chose to abandon Shenji for her own selfish reasons. She didn't value boys over girls, but she had married into a family that valued boys over girls. She had no other choice. In ancient times, there were even more families like the Qing family, so it wasn't strange. Was this the corruption of morals, or the lack of humanity? At first, Yunhua wouldn't say anything even if she was beaten to death. But since Yun Jian said this, Yunhua understood her father-in-law. She knew that with the old man's personality, he would definitely investigate what happened in the past. Once it was found out, her life would be even more difficult. So, for this, Yunhua chose to admit it herself. Yunhua, you. Yunhua's husband, who was Shenji's biological father, was also stunned when he heard Yunhua's words. The old man and everyone else present were shocked. No one expected that as the child's biological mother, Yunhua would do such a cruel thing for her own selfish desires. I don't care about your family's matters, but I'm going to meditate in the ancestral hall today. Yun Jian held Shenji's urn. After hearing the arguments around her, she didn't move at all. She walked towards the Qing family's ancestral hall. Stop. The old man didn't even have time to resolve the matter. When he heard Yun Jian's words, he rushed to Yun Jian with his walking stick. He blocked Yun Jian's path and said to Yun Jian, even if she really is my granddaughter, I won't allow her to enter the ancestral hall. The Qing family has its own rules. In the Qing family, only the men of the Qing family and the woman who is the mistress of the Qing family can enter the ancestral hall. This sentence was clearly blatant discrimination against women. All the men of the Qing family could enter the ancestral hall and be worshipped by the future generations, but only the mistress of the Qing family had the right to enter the ancestral hall. Yun Jian's eyes were cold. But this wasn't the end. The old man saw that Yun Jian was listening to him, so he added, since ancient times, the men went out to earn money while the women stayed at home. If a woman can be like a man and make a career outside, I have nothing to say about her entering the ancestral hall. But in the 600 years of our Qing family, there has never been a record of a woman being able to make a name for herself outside. So, the old man meant that apart from giving birth to children, to get married, and to follow the mistress of the Qing family, there was no other purpose. Because that was how the Qing family had been for the past 600 years. The old man thought that Yun Jian would stop when she heard that. But the old man was the old man. The old man was stunned, but he nodded. Yes. But she's a girl. How can she? Just as the old man finished speaking, Yun Jian said coldly, "Come out." Right after she said that, a lot of people appeared on the roof of the courtyard house. They jumped down from the roof and stood beside Yun Jian. Everyone in the Qing family was shocked. Just when everyone was at a loss, Yun Jian suddenly said to everyone, "They are all Shenji's men. The ace of the world's largest assassin organization, codenamed Shenji. His net worth is $39 billion US. Is this enough to enter the Qing family's ancestral hall?" Chapter 26-25. He was the ace of the world's largest assassin organization. He had a total of $39 billion US under his name. With this kind of achievement, let alone entering the Qing family's ancestral hall, it wouldn't be a problem for him to enter and leave the Qing family's ancestral hall tens of thousands of times. The Qing family had never had an outstanding descendant with a total of $39 billion US under his name. If that was converted to RMB, it would be trillions. They hadn't even seen what a billion RMB looked like. With Yun Jian's words and the fact that they had been hiding in every corner of the courtyard house since the beginning, no one had noticed their sudden appearance. They were like assassins in ancient times who came and went like ghosts. Everyone in the Qing family, including old Master Cheng, was stunned. Their faces were pale. What did you say?" Old Master Cheng yelled as he slammed his walking stick on the ground. The old man was in disbelief at Yun Jian's words. "This old thing is Sister Ji's grandfather?" Just as old Master Cheng was about to think that Yun Jian had found someone to pretend to be Shenji's subordinate so that Shenji could enter the Cheng family's ancestral hall, a man who had just jumped down from the courtyard house's roof pulled off the black mask covering his face. It revealed the face of a 17 or 18-year-old Shota boy. Although he looked 17 or 18-year-old, he was actually 25 years old, even older than Shenji. The only reason he called Shenji Sister Ji was because he worked for her. This man with a youthful face was named Huan. Huan looked at old Master Cheng without any trace of politeness and called him "old thing" in front of everyone. When the people around heard how Huan addressed old Master Cheng, they felt a faint wave of shock and fear. The old man was known to be a stern man in the village. If this young man who looked like he was only 17 or 18 years old was just someone Yun Jian found to put on an act for everyone to see, then, why waste time talking to this old thing? My sister Ji is invincible in the assassin circle. She's not even willing to enter the Cheng family's ancestral hall. If she refuses again, I'll King find someone to bomb their ancestral hall. Huan glanced at old Master Cheng and the others. As he spoke, he lifted the corner of his shirt and took out a revolver. He pointed the muzzle at old Master Cheng and was about to put his finger on the trigger. This gun isn't fake, is it? A man from the Cheng family who thought he was very smart and had studied guns in books looked at the gun in Huan's hand from afar and couldn't help but speak. "CK, I'll show you the power of this gun." Huan heard that his gun was doubted. He was so angry that he pulled the trigger. Before anyone in the Cheng family's gun, old Master Cheng, Masters, Huan's, Master. Everyone from the Cheng family stood rooted to the ground. Gun. It was a real gun. It was a real gun that could shoot bullets. Everyone in the Cheng family turned pale with fright as they watched the bullet fly towards old Master Cheng's head at lightning speed. A glint flashed in everyone's eyes. In the next second, the bullet collided with a butterfly knife in midair. The butterfly knife collided with the bullet and the friction between the two created a violent spark in the air. In the next second, the impact was offset and it stopped in midair. Then, both of them fell to the ground. Seeing this shocking scene, everyone couldn't stay calm. Everyone looked in the direction of the butterfly knife. Yun Jian walked to the spot where the butterfly knife had collided with the bullet in front of everyone and picked it up from the ground. She turned to the Cheng family like nothing had happened and spoke in her usual icy tone, "I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. Don't waste my time. You can't afford it. Don't think that she's dead. Even if she's an ace assassin, she can't do anything to you. I'm sorry, but I came from the same place as her." Chapter 26-26. No matter how much the Cheng family didn't believe that Shenji was an ace assassin from the world's largest assassin organization, or that Yun Jian said that Shenji's net worth was 39 billion yuan, they had to believe it now. Huan had a gun. A real gun. And Yun Jian said that Huan was Shenji's subordinate. This was enough to prove the authenticity of Shenji's identity. Because no ordinary person could carry a gun at any time. The Cheng family did feel lucky for a moment because Shenji had died. After all, he was already dead. No matter how powerful she was in the past, she couldn't do anything to them. But before they could relax, Yun Jian used a butterfly knife to block a bullet. She used a knife. She did things that ordinary people couldn't even dream of. She even stood there and boasted that she came from the same place as Shenji. Then wouldn't Yun Jian's identity be the same as Shenji's? Ha! Huan scoffed when he saw how Yun Jian had saved the stubborn old man of the Cheng family with her help. Go and move the things in. Then, just as old Master Cheng, Yun Hua, and everyone else in the Cheng family trembled in fear, Yun Jian's indifferent voice rang out. Move them in? Move what? Everyone present was bewildered. But just as she said that, the people who had been waiting outside for a long time came in carrying box after box of funerary items. Ignoring the Qing family, Yun Jian held Shenji's urn and placed the memorial tablet she had prepared for Shenji at the highest spot in the ancestral hall under the Qing family's shocked gazes. Wait! Wait! We've discussed it and agreed to place her memorial tablet in the ancestral hall. We'll bury her with glory and record her in the family tree. But the Qing family has its own rules. The highest position in the ancestral hall is reserved for the current head of the Qing family. She's just a direct descendant after all, and she's a girl. Just as Yun Jian took Shenji's tablet and placed it at the highest point in the ancestral hall, a weak middle-aged man's voice sounded. The middle-aged man who spoke weakly was none other than Shenji's biological father and Yunhua's husband, Cheng Bing. Cheng Bing's status in the Qing family was very low, and because he was the seventh son of the Qing family's old master, he had many sons and could not be taken care of. In addition, Cheng Bing himself was weak and incompetent, so he was almost dispensable in the Qing family. This time, Cheng Bing was called over by old master Cheng. Cheng Bing didn't dare to disobey his father. Oh, Yun Jian responded softly before Cheng Bing could finish his sentence. Hearing this, the Qing family members heaved a sigh of relief. Although Shenji's friend had displayed terrifying strength, he shouldn't have reached the point of being unreasonable. In the Qing family's ancestral hall, the highest tablet had always been reserved for the current head of the Qing family. This meant that old Master Cheng would only have the right to place his tablet at the highest point after he passed away. Just when everyone thought that Yun Jian was going to compromise, Yun Jian's expression changed. Yun Jian reached out to take Shenji's tablet. She tried to take it down from the highest point. Seeing this, everyone smiled in satisfaction. However, just as her hand was about to touch Shenji's memorial tablet that she had placed at the highest point, her slender and well-defined hand turned abruptly. Bang, bang, bang. Then, a series of bangs rang out. Everyone saw that apart from Shenji's tablet at the highest point in the ancestral hall, all the other tablets of the Qing family's ancestors had been smashed to the ground by Yun Jian. Just as everyone from the Qing family was stunned, Yi Zichen's expression changed. Yun Jian's cold voice suddenly rang out. Since these rules were set by your ancestors, then I'll burn them on behalf of the Qing family. I'm taking this place. Chapter 26-27. Yun Jian had always been a woman of her words. Once she spoke, she spilled the oil on the memorial tablet in the ancestral hall and a lighter appeared in her hand. Without even looking, she flicked it open with the thumb of her right hand and was about to toss it on the floor as she spoke. No! Don't burn it! Don't burn it! As the lighter in Yun Jian's hand fell to the ground, old Master Cheng lunged forward at once. Although old Master Cheng was stubborn when it came to favoring boys over girls, he cared a lot about his ancestors' memorial tablets. His body, which was already in his 70s, flew forward almost immediately and reached out to grab the lighter that was quickly falling to the ground and igniting the flame. Ignoring the burn on his hand, old Master Cheng grabbed the lighter and threw it out of the house. The lighter, which had no combustible material, quickly went out. Old Master Cheng's hand was slightly burned, but he didn't care about it. Instead, he looked at Yun Jian, his lips trembling. 3 minutes later, old Master Cheng had no choice. He waved his hand and gave his final answer. If you want her memorial tablet to be placed at the highest place, then so be it. After all, our Qing family has wronged her. Old Master Cheng didn't have a conscience. He was just being threatened by Yun Jian. Old Master. You. Dad? Grandpa. As soon as old Master Cheng finished speaking, everyone in the Qing family, including the servants who worked for the Qing family, old Master Cheng's son and daughter-in-law, as well as his grandchildren and juniors, hurriedly spoke out in an attempt to stop old Master Cheng's plan. All right. That's enough. Don't say any more. It's decided. The moment everyone in the Qing family started to retort, Old Master Qing shouted loudly and interrupted everyone. Shenji's memorial tablet was successfully placed in the Qing family's ancestral hall. As an ancient feudal family, this was the first time in the history of the Qing family that a junior who wasn't the Qing grandmother could be placed in the ancestral hall and even be recorded in the family tree. Other than Yun Jian's burial items, Yun Jian followed Shenji's instructions from an Hun many years ago and buried her in the most ordinary way. Like I said, once a person dies, there is nothing left. He turned into a pile of ash, as if he had never appeared. This was the fate of a secret agent assassin. You would live in glory while you were alive. Dead. If it wasn't for Yun Jian calling Huan and the others, no one would have known about Shenji's death. It was like a firework exploding in the dark night, only for a moment of glory. Shenji, I hope that you can be reincarnated and live a normal life. Yun Jian stood in front of Shenji's grave and burned a thick book page by page. This book was a plan made by a group of children to escape when Yun Jian was in Han. But in the end, with Shenji's departure, Yun Jian was the only assassin left who had joined Han with her. The winner would survive while the weak would be eliminated. Those who couldn't keep up with the world would be thrown into the abyss by the secular world. This was the order of the assassin agent. Looking at the thick booklet burning page by page, Yun Jian felt like she was back when she first joined the assassin organization. All the kids gathered together to discuss strategies. However, it was only that one time. All the children had discussed a strategy together. In a survival game where you had to kill your friends and teammates to survive, everyone had forgotten their original intention. To them, death might be the true release. The moment the book was burned to ashes, Yun Jian turned and left without looking back. Calm. Wonderful book house. Chapter 26-28. Before leaving the Qing family, Yun Jian had said that as long as she was alive, if the Qing family dared to touch Shenji's memorial tablet or go back on their word, she would definitely take action. Since Yun Jian had said that before, the Qing family naturally didn't dare to refute her. After all, Yun Jian's identity was very likely to be the same as Shenji's. Or even more powerful than Shenji. Country J was a small country. The people here didn't live a rich life. Because of the bad geography, there were often floods and droughts. Even some of the surrounding powerful countries could easily take over Japan with a wave of their hand, but they couldn't be bothered to do so. This was because Japan was just a small country, and its geographical environment was not attractive at all. But it was a country like this that had the headquarters of the International Assassin website and most of Shenji's forces. The International Assassin website was a platform for assassins to communicate with their employers and accept missions. There must be someone controlling such a website behind the scenes. And its headquarters was in such a backward country. Moreover, Shenji was very close to the boss of the International Assassin website, so all of Shenji's forces were in Country J. Although the Soul Eater organization wasn't in Country J, to Shenji, they weren't that powerful. The money Shenji had earned by risking his life for missions was all in Country J, distributed among his assets in every corner of the country. Headquarters of the International Assassin website. There were no tall buildings in the surrounding area. Only this building, which was at least 30 stories tall, was exceptionally eye-catching. Here, many elites and talents from all over the world worked in this 30-story building. In the conference room, the boss of the International Assassin website stood in the middle of the room, holding a document in his hand. Shenji is dead. The boss whistled as he spoke. The death of an assassin or agent was very normal for the headquarters of the International Assassin website. The death of an assassin or agent meant that her era was over. As mentioned before, no matter how powerful an agent was, once they were found dead, their past would be forgotten. No one would remember her. Even worse. Boss, don't you have a good relationship with Shenji? Don't you feel bad that she's dead? Someone raised an eyebrow, looking very happy. I feel bad? I don't see you guys feeling any heartache. The grand boss raised his hand from the table. He adjusted his tie and walked to the side. Shunji trusted me a lot when she was alive. All her assets and businesses are in Country J, the boss said in front of his subordinates. Boss, what do you mean? Someone below was drooling. He licked his saliva and looked at the final boss expectantly. Regardless of their past achievements, they will still turn to dust after death. As usual, we'll take everything. The boss snapped his fingers. As he spoke, he opened the door of the conference room and walked out. Pack your things. We're going to fight for Shunji's fortune. I'm sure there are already a lot of people internationally eyeing this fat piece of meat that Shunji left behind. First come, first served. We can't fall behind. After the boss finished speaking, he opened the door of the conference room. However, just as the final boss opened the conference room door, everyone suddenly saw a teenage girl standing in front of them like a ghost. The young girl's figure was beautiful. She stood in front of everyone, and when she saw them leave, she raised her head slightly. Under her bangs, the pair of black eyes were so sharp that it was frightening. You are? The boss asked. However, the young girl spoke indifferently and said something that shocked everyone. Number 1 on the International Assassin chart, slaying God. Chapter 26-29. When they heard Yun Jian reveal her identity, the group of executives from the International Secret Service Assassin website narrowed their eyes. An unnatural look of surprise flashed across their faces. Slaying God? The final boss glanced at Yun Jian from the corner of his eyes and asked with an unnatural expression. Although the International Secret Service Assassin website was a communication platform that was tied directly to the Secret Service assassins, they did not know any of the Secret Service assassins and Secret Service assassins who accepted missions from their employers on the website. Secret Service assassins and Secret Service assassins were high-risk occupations. Sometimes, even if you had met them, you would put yourself in an abyss of danger. The International Secret Service Assassin website was a platform for employers and Secret Service assassins to get to know each other and make deals. The staff on the website, including the executives, were the final boss and the group of people standing behind him. They earned a cut of the Secret Service assassins' earnings when they accepted missions from the International Secret Service Assassin website. In other words, the more missions the Secret Service assassins accepted on the website, the higher the bounty and the more they earned. As the number 1 Secret Service assassin in the world, slaying God, although the final boss and his group received a small cut of the bounty from Yun Jian, the International Secret Service Assassin website would still earn a lot even if they only received 0.1% of the bounty from Yun Jian's mission, which started at $100 million. Therefore, to the International Secret Service Assassin website, Yun Jian was undoubtedly the biggest crocodile on the website. Cough. However, the final boss reacted quickly. He coughed softly and looked at Yun Jian. He immediately curtsied to Yun Jian with the most standard posture. His attitude was extremely respectful. Is there anything that you need us to do personally? Country J's capital, downtown area. In a bar with red lights and green lights. The colorful lights in the bar were so eerie that it made one's eyes blur. The people dancing wildly in the flashing lights seemed to be on steroids as they shook their heads wildly and cheered. Among the crowd, no one noticed a 19-year-old teenage girl from Country Z walking to a corner of the bar with 2 bottles of hard liquor mixed by a mixer. There were more than 10 adult men in their 30s and 40s sitting in the corner of the bar. All of them had creepy tattoos on their hands, faces, and the parts of their bodies that were exposed outside of their singlets. The girl with the hard liquor came to the bar. The dozen or so adult men in their 30s and 40s were still talking without restraint. Big brother, when are we going to make a move? Among them, there was a young man in his 20s who looked impatient. He hugged an enchanting woman in her 20s who was sitting on his lap and spoke to a man with a tattoo on his chest. What's the rush? What should be ours will definitely be ours. Shenji is dead. In this world, aside from Mad Dragon, who came from an Hun with that woman, and a few people who have been in seclusion for many years, there's no one else who has the ability to compete with us. The middle-aged man, who was called Big Brother, had a cigarette in his mouth and two beauties in his arms. As he spoke, the middle-aged man patted the buttocks of the blonde beauty sitting on his right. He propped himself up and narrowed his eyes. Also, I just talked to the people from the International Secret Service Assassin website. This time, we'll work together to seize Shenji's assets. Believe me, this is something that can be obtained with the flip of a hand. As he spoke, the middle-aged man reached out and grabbed the breasts of the beauties on his left and right. His expression was uninterested. Are there no newcomers here? It's always the same people. There's no novelty at all. Just as the middle-aged man frowned, he suddenly saw a 19-year-old girl walk over with 2 bottles of hard liquor. The words that came out of the girl's mouth made the middle-aged man gulp hard. Excuse me, these are the whiskey and hard liquor that the gentleman ordered. Would you like me to fill the glasses for the gentleman? Chapter 2630. Page 1/1. The sweet voice had a hint of a young girl's voice, as though it was the sound of nature, causing people to feel as though they were drowning in it. Even the middle-aged man who was groping the 2 beauties and impatiently muttering that he wanted new goods stared at her. Newcomer? The middle-aged man glanced at the young girl and placed his elbows on his thighs, looking at the young girl with a pitiful expression. The young girl blinked her large eyes, pinched the tray in her hands, took 2 steps back and pursed her lips. Yes, I am. The middle-aged man whistled. The blonde beauty sitting on the right side of the middle-aged man rolled her eyes. She just remembered that the young girl came to her bar to apply for a job, saying that she could do anything because her family was too poor. Thinking that the young girl was inexperienced, the blonde beauty touched her face and hurriedly suggested to the middle-aged man, Big Brother, her name is Xiaofan, she is new to the bar. After saying this, the blonde beauty stretched out her sexy thighs, then raised her leg to the middle-aged man's thigh and rubbed a certain part of the middle-aged man. Then, she gently placed her lips that were redder than a monkey's but beside the middle-aged man's ear, blew a breath and said softly, "We have already asked this girl, based on her appearance, she should still be a virgin." After saying this, the blonde beauty flipped her blonde hair and looked at the young girl with her arms crossed. In the bar, there were no companions to speak of, there were only benefits. Some people, for themselves, would use underhanded means to betray their companions. Some incomparably pure young girls, after entering the bar, would meet all kinds of people, even if they had a good nature, after experiencing some betrayal and torture, they would still be led astray. The blonde beauty secretly interrupted the middle-aged man, no one else heard it. After saying this, the middle-aged man crossed his arms and looked at the young girl, "All right, pour the wine." Seeing this, the young girl placed the tray on the table and poured wine for the men one by one. One of the men wanted to reach out and slap the young girls but the young girl dodged without any flaws. "Xiaoqing, come quickly, come to Big Brother's side." The blonde beauty beckoned to the young girl. The rest of the middle-aged men and the people sitting by the side had already drunk the wine poured by the young girl. The blonde beauty beckoned to the girl, and the girl immediately followed her. At this moment, the middle-aged man picked up the cup of wine that the young girl had poured for him. He stared at the young girl, intending to drink the wine in the cup in one gulp. However, the moment the middle-aged man placed the wine cup at the tip of his nose and took a light sniff, he suddenly pushed away the blonde beauty who was leaning on him. He picked up the pistol at his waist and shot at the girl. At the same time, he shouted, "Don't drink this wine. This woman drugged him." As he spoke, the middle-aged man fired a shot at the young girl. Ah! Ah! When the blonde beauty saw this, she and the other beauty covered their ears at the same time. They were so scared that their faces turned pale. However, just when everyone present was so frightened that their faces turned pale, thinking that the young girl holding the tray would definitely die on the spot. The young girl narrowed her eyes deeply. In the next second, she moved sideways to the middle-aged man's side. She wrapped her hand around the middle-aged man's wrist and locked it. She leaned to the side and dodged the bullet shot by the middle-aged man. At the same time, she controlled the handle of the middle-aged man's gun and forcefully slammed the muzzle of the gun into the middle-aged man's group of subordinates who had already drunk the wine and instantly fainted. Bang! The middle-aged man's subordinate was shot in the head by the middle-aged man's gun in his sleep. This shot should have been shot at Yunjian's body. And this move only took Yunjian a short second. In the next second, she wrapped her hand around the middle-aged man's wrist and ruthlessly smashed his wrist joint with one hand. Her other hand, at a speed of 0.5 seconds, directly snatched the middle-aged man's gun from his hand. She lifted her leg and directly kicked the middle-aged man to the ground. The golden-haired beauty, as well as the hostess sitting beside her, were all stunned. They didn't expect that the weak young girl who came to apply for the job yesterday, who looked like she had just entered society, was actually, however, this wasn't the end. Bang, bang, bang. A few gunshots rang out at the entrance. Then, a group of people rushed in, led by the boss of the International Assassin platform. When the middle-aged man saw the boss, he immediately called for help. But before he could call for the boss timidly stood in front of Yunjian and said with a trembling voice, "Are you planning to take all of Shenji's assets? Here you go. Here you go. Take it all. As for the rest of the bastards who want to snatch your assets, the International Assassin platform will definitely hunt them down and kill them all for you." Chapter 2631. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation International Secret Assassin website. These words represented the absolute power and status they held in Country J. Country J's economy was not developed and its geographical location was bad. It was a small country that could easily conquer a powerful country but was too lazy to even make a move due to its bad geographical location. Hence, Shenji's influence and the International Secret Assassin website were undoubtedly more prominent here. Now that Shenji was dead, the International Secret Assassin website was the one with the highest status. What was going on now though? The boss of the International Secret Assassin website was actually speaking to Yunjian. Not only did he donate all of Shenji's wealth to Yunjian, but he also said that he would help Yunjian hunt down the bastard who wanted to fight with Yunjian for Shenji's wealth. When the gunshot rang out, the blonde and the other beauties in the bar had already shrunk into a corner. However, at this moment, the golden-haired beauty's heart was in a state of shock. Who was this girl? Was she not a poor person who came to apply for a job? Why would she poison her brother? Moreover, she had such terrifying skills. She even had the ability to make the International Secret Assassin website's boss bow down to her. While the blonde and everyone else in the bar, including the middle-aged man who was stepped on by Yunjian, were perplexed, Yunjian suddenly spoke to the final boss again, causing everyone to be shocked. Donate all of Shenji's assets to needy children in need in Shenji's name. Not a single cent less. Kill anyone who disobeys my order. This was Shenji's wish and Yunjian's plan. With that, Yunjian turned and left without even sparing a glance at the crowd. It was as if she had never appeared. Country Z, Longmen City. When everything was over, Yunjian returned to the place where the gears of fate began to turn. She brought the sandalwood box, wooden fan, and wooden hairpin back with her. The moment she entered the house, she saw Qin Yiru playing with the children on the sponge mat downstairs. "Xiao Jian, you're back. Have you eaten? There's still rice at home." Do you want me to heat it up for you? Qin Yiru asked. No need, I've eaten. Yun Jian shook her head and paused before asking Qin Yiru. Just as she spoke, Qin Yiru pointed upstairs as if she knew that Yun Jian would ask where Ce was and replied with a smile, she's upstairs. Yun Jian answered and went upstairs. Just as she entered the room, Yun Jian house, Yun Jian. It was only after a brief moment of intimacy that Yun Jian showed the 3 divine weapons she brought back this time to Ce for him to take a look. Also, Shi Lin's translation of Ji Su Li Yun. Translation on Ce to Yun Translation. Translation Translation Yun Translation Lin Lu Translation. After placing the 3 divine artifacts together, Ce packed up and planned to hide them in a secluded spot. Just as Ce was about to put the 3 divine artifacts away, a beam of light flashed from the sandalwood box and refracted into a corner of the room where the curtains were drawn. Then, something surprising happened. After the 3 divine artifacts were placed together, a ball of powerful spiritual energy spiraled out of the sandalwood box and solidified, circling above the room and at the corner of the curtains. Then, a blurry figure appeared in front of Yun Jian and Ce. And the owner of that projection was none other than the owner of that phantom. Xiaofan. Translator, Atlas Studios. Editor, Atlas Studios. Chapter 2632. Translator, Henyi Translations. Editor, Henyi Translations. On the eve of the big battle, he retched again. End 1. The illusory figure was like a high-tech projection in a sci-fi movie. When Yun Jian and Ce saw it, they looked at each other and stared at the figure that was conjured in front of them. At this moment, Xiaofan looked like he was in a deep sleep. His eyes were tightly shut and he didn't move at all. But the moment the projection projected him, his long eyelashes flickered. The next moment, his eyes, which looked like they had been in a deep sleep for half his life, slowly opened. What entered his vision was a young man in his early 20s. He looked very similar to Ce, like a handsome young man who had walked out of a manga. His skin was even more delicate than a baby's, as if it could be broken with a flick of a finger. But because he had inherited Ce's excellent genes, his delicate skin didn't lack the charm of a man, nor did he look like a fake man. It could be said that because he had inherited Yun Jian and Ce's strengths, Xiaofang's looks had reached the point where it could shock the world at first glance. When Xiaofan saw Yun Jian and Ce's faces, he became excited and wanted to walk towards them. Sha, but just as Xiaofan was about to walk towards Yun Jian and Ce, the anklet on his feet stopped him from moving forward. Father! Mother! Xiaofan shouted at Yun Jian and Ce. As he spoke, tears of sincerity flowed down from the corners of his eyes. They didn't need to look to know that this was the little fellow who had grown up, Si-wan. When they saw that Xiaofang's anklet had been shackled, Yun Jian and Ce's faces darkened even more. Xiaofan wanted to say something, but he suddenly thought about it. He didn't have much time to reminisce. In order to prevent his future parents from making the same mistakes, Xiaofan shouted at Yun Jian and Ce, Yuan Yi must have known about this. I'm sure Yuan Xing has already told you about my identity. I was captured by a mysterious person, and I'm currently locked up in a place with an unknown location. You must have used the 3 magical artifacts that I left behind to see me. This conversation can only last for 10 minutes, so I'll make it short. 10 minutes later, Xiaofan disappeared. Seeing that, Yun Jian's heart tightened. She clenched her fists and looked at Ce. Ce nodded slightly at her. From the conversation just now, Yun Jian and Ce had already grasped the exact location where the mysterious person had locked Xiaofan up. This was going to be a battle of life and death, but for the sake of her child, Yun Jian had to go. Whether she could come back alive was still an unknown. Yun Jian and Ce agreed to go to the battlefield 3 days later. This time, they must eradicate the mysterious person from this world. On the second day, Yun Jian was called out by Chen Sini. She was about to leave. This time, she did not know if she could come back alive. In spite of it, Yun Jian still went to Chen Sini's appointment. Jian, what should I do? My family found out that Xiaofan and I are dating. They want me to break up with him, Chen Sini told Yun Jian with a troubled expression. As she spoke, she took a bite of the drumstick in her hand. Looking at Yun Jian's troubled expression and silence, Chen Sini was stunned before she passed a drumstick to Yun Jian. Jian, do you want some? Yun Jian, who was frowning, suddenly felt nauseous when she caught a whiff of the drumstick Chen Sini passed to her. She covered her mouth and turned away to retch again. P.S. That's all for today. Good night, everyone. Wax, did you see the title? Ah, it's almost over. Oh, __, oh. Chapter 2633. Jian, what's wrong? Does your stomach hurt? Seeing that Yun Jian had turned her head to the side abruptly like she was agitated by something and started retching, Chen Sini stood up quickly and strode to Yun Jian's seat, patting Yun Jian's back with a worried frown. I'm fine. Yun Jian took Chen Sini's hand, but her heart skipped a beat. Ever since she gave birth to the little boy and girl, she knew how to use contraception when they did it together. She was no longer the inexperienced little girl who knew how to protect herself. She would not repeat the mistake of being tricked by the mysterious person because she did not know that she was pregnant. Jian, you're not pregnant again, are you? Chen Sini suddenly recalled Yun Jian's symptoms. Chen Sini was studying medicine in university. Although she had yet to graduate, she would have chosen this major for nothing if she did not know the general knowledge as a future doctor. Yun Jian's hands froze when she heard Chen Sini's words. Chen Sini waved at Yun Jian, as if she had forgotten her worries. She pulled Yun Jian's hand with a smile and pressed her index and middle fingers on Yun Jian's wrist like an experienced Chinese physician, pinching the joints of Yun Jian's wrist gently. Let me take a look. Your pulse is jumping non-stop. I think it's very likely that you're pregnant. Jian, you can't go wrong trusting me. I'm from a medical school after all. The scene changed to the outpatient room of Longmen City People's Hospital. Your symptoms are due to the oily food you've been eating recently. You must have swallowed it without chewing carefully, right? Write more bland things these few days. Remember, you must chew and swallow slowly when you eat next time. Here is the medical record. You can prescribe the medicine now. The doctor in the outpatient room, who was wearing a pair of heavy, thick, and cumbersome glasses, reached out his right hand and gently lifted his glasses frame. He pushed the medical record book to Yun Jian with his left hand. Chen Sini pursed her lips as she stood at the side, pursing her lips. She had some skills. Chen Sini wanted to inherit the old profession passed down from her ancestors, so she chose to major in medicine. But based on the current situation, she had clearly learned the ancient Chinese medicine techniques from her grandfather, so why couldn't she figure it out? Cough, cough, cough. Of course, it was better not to let others know about this kind of miscalculation and disgrace. After all, she was determined to become a famous doctor in the future. Chen Sini and Yun Jian took the medicine and walked out of the hospital. These days, Yun Jian indeed had no appetite, so when she ate, she would wolf down her food and finish it carelessly. It was only when Ce was around that she would chew slowly. As soon as he walked out of the hospital, he saw two people walking towards him. It was Zhang Xiaofan and Ling Yichen. Sini, why are you in the hospital? Are you hurt? Or? Zhang Xiaofan asked Chen Sini loudly just as he walked over. They had not seen each other for a few days as they were forced to separate by their families. It's not me, it's Jian. Chen Sini mumbled. Are you okay? Ling Yichen, who stood beside Zhang Xiaofeng, scratched his head and asked in a friendly manner as a friend. I'm fine. Yun Jian shook her head. Jian, you must take good care of yourself. The doctor said that if you don't take good care of your stomach, you'll have major problems in the future. Chen Sini looked at Yun Jian worriedly. Just as Chen Sini finished her words, however, she saw a slender and handsome man walking over from the opposite side of the road. He was still incomparably handsome, but at this moment, there was a trace of gloominess on his handsome face. It was Ce. When Ce walked over with his long strides, he seemed to have heard some important news as he grabbed Yun Jian's wrist and dragged her away with a look that those who did not know better would think that he was a domestic abuser who was about to abuse his wife. His action startled two elderly people who were about to walk out of the hospital while supporting each other in their hospital gowns. They rushed over to hold Ce back. Hey, young man. Let's talk nicely. You can't hit a woman. Let go. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.